Do you have your gaffer tape to fix that again?
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Sunday, January 27th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gibbo Nation Media Assassination episode 1107.
This is No Agenda.
Spending down my carbon budget and broadcasting live from the capital of the Lone Star State here in downtown Austin, Tejas, in the Cludio in the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I wouldn't be doggone, I'd be long gone. I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
All right, who's writing your openings now?
Sam Cooke.
That's right. Wow, from the grave. Sam Cooke, everybody. Way to go. Very nice. Yeah. Bonjour, Jean-Claude.
Hello.
Bonjour to you.
In the morning to you.
Yes.
In the morning, all ships at sea.
Le matin. Exactly. Well. What an interesting series of events. Yes, again.
Again, the show's over with two days of nothing but hectic excitement.
Yeah. And it almost a lot of it resolves itself again. I've had so many calls from our producers in DC. Although most of our producers who are really in the know of stuff, they're much more interested in talking about Venezuela. And most of them say, pay attention because, that's where we're headed. That's what it's going to be like for us.
Well, like Bernie, and that's probably true.
Yeah.
Bernie came out and made a big stink about this whole thing, thinking we should be back in Maduro. I mean, come on.
Now let's just back this up for a second. What a fantastic! This is a soft coup, is what I keep hearing the term.
Since they got guys with guns.
Well,
I guess what's the difference between a soft coup and a hard coup? I think what they're trying to do to Trump is more of a soft coup.
No, it's soft coup is until the military takes over.
Oh, well, maybe.
That's the definition I've heard, and I think we're very close, as my sources say, sources familiar with the situation. The United States has offered visas to all Venezuela military personnel
there has
remain loyal.
Been one guy
yeah.
that was in the embassy or the consulate in Washington when he refused to be called back, and he was a military guy.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of hung out. I actually have a clip, which I think covers all of this. It's not a bad rundown. This is the Venezuela rundown on NBC.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today putting the world on notice.
Now it's time for every other nation to pick a side. No more delays, no more games.
Pompeo urging action at a tense UN Security Council meeting to address the unfolding political and humanitarian crisis in Venezuela.
Either you stand with the forces of freedom or you're in league with Maduro and his mayhem.
I forgot about forces of freedom. That's scrumptious. Freedom brought to you by forces.
Humanitarian crisis in Venezuela.
Either you stand with the forces of freedom or you're in league with Maduro and his mayhem.
Those forces Pompeo spoke of, led by 35-year-old opposition leader Juan Guaidó, who this week was named interim president by the Venezuelan parliament, drawing criticism from President Nicolás Maduro, calling it an American-orchestrated coup. Maduro tweeting, "No one is going to subdue us. We will never surrender." The split has plunged Venezuela further into crisis. Maduro, handpicked by former President Hugo Chavez, is largely blamed for the country's economic decline, with annual inflation rates up to 1.3 million%, according to a study by the opposition-controlled National Assembly. Maduro has support only from a handful of countries, including Russia and China. More than a dozen nations are behind Guaidó. After the U.S. announced its support, Maduro lashed out, expelling American diplomats from the country.
Do not test the United States on our resolve to protect our own people.
The Trump administration maintaining a hard line, as protesters in the U.S. pick sides.
We can't be sitting here complaining about interference from abroad in our election while we're supporting someone that's essentially creating a coup.
And late word tonight, that Venezuela's highest-ranking military diplomat in Washington has broken with the Maduro regime.
I got to tell you, man, Pompeo and whoever else was involved in this did a good job on teeing everybody up, 17 countries immediately to recognize Guaido as the man. I'm not quite sure who.
This is the same way Intel rolled out the Itanium.
The what?
You don't even remember this chip.
No.
So they had this super chip that they were going to roll out. It was going to replace the x86 series.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they did this. They did all this you're going to be with us. You're going to be with us. You're going to be with us. We're going to do a joint announcement. And it was very well orchestrated, probably the best ever. But it resulted in so much embarrassment that it would never happen again quite at that level. But that's what you do. It's just it's a form of marketing.
Yeah, well, of course. That's what politics is all marketing. There was one extra little thing about the voting machines that got Maduro reelected. These were a bunch of, I think, British machines. Smartmatic, Cybernetica, who I'm not sure if they still had Maduro in their pocket thinking, okay, this is all good. Here we go. In March 2018, Smartmatic, the electoral product company which had participated in the majority of elections under the Bolivarian government, ceased operations in Venezuela. Said they could no longer guarantee the validity of election results through its machines.
As if they ever could.
Well, I guess they had their outcomes pre-programmed, and maybe someone got wise to it and changed that around. But this is very important for United States oil. And you know more about this than I do, but it's my understanding that our refiners in the U.S. Like to get this Venezuelan crude to mix up with our Texas stuff. And it seems
the best
important.
crude that I've ever heard of is Bolivian.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to assume that a lot of the crude down in South America is so – the stuff is so the problem with crude oil is the viscosity and the not so much, though, as the amount of sulfur that is in the crude. And they had stuff coming out of Bolivia that they would run through this little refinery they created over by the Union Refinery on the coast here. I can't remember the name. It was Pacific, I think. Mm-hmm. And they just took nothing but they had this refinery was such that it didn't even need any equipment whatsoever.
Just put it through the pipes
to take sulfur out. And and I was told by somebody when I was working up there that you could take this Bolivian crude and put it right in a diesel truck and drive it off.
Nice. Right out of the ground into your truck?
Yeah, that was the running gag.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that this Venezuelan oil, which is right next door, is similar. It's a really high quality product.
Right. Yeah. But are you familiar with the mixing that's what we do with our?
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's generally the way it's not generally the way it works. You don't mix the oils before you put them through the process because you're just causing more trouble. It just doesn't seem sensible.
Oh.
I mean, if you can refine Texas crude, you can refine Texas crude, and then you can refine the other stuff too. It's almost like a CMOS process.
Yeah, this is from I got this from oilprice.com. Ever since we started pipelines, looking at pipelines, I follow a lot of energy stuff. So I have no idea what validity this has, but they said one reason Gulf Coast refiners continue to rely on imports of Venezuela's heavy oil, despite the collapsing oil production. Venezuela has seen exports of crude oil. Well, shit, where was it now? I lost my place. Anyway, it was the refiners needed it. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know why they need it more than they need any other oil, but maybe it has some properties that are good for some other byproducts, so who knows? I do know this. I was looking at the list of the countries with the most oil reserves, and Venezuela is number one. They beat Saudi Arabia. And
for sure, what we don't want is more of these 400 consultants from Russia who have been sent in. You know what that means. Consultants, code name for special forces. The Chinese are the Chinese are in there, and they're pissed because I think Venezuela owes them $40 or $50 billion for stuff that they never expected to get paid for. But hey, that's how they work. It's like, okay, you can't pay for it. That's ours. So this could come to an interesting conflagration.
Yeah, that is an interesting situation. Let's play this. You have a long clip here from Democracy Now!, which takes a different angle on this. And I think there's some justification for some of these assertions. But actually, let me jump to the clip that would follow this. But let's play the short clip first, which is Venezuela, the professor.
Okie dokie.
Alejandro Velasco, let's begin with you. Your assessment of what's taken place so far. Are we seeing a coup in the making?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's no question, on the other hand, that the Maduro government lacks significant amount of popular support and to a significant extent also legal legitimacy. And as you just mentioned, I returned from a couple of weeks there just on Tuesday, and the level of discontent, especially among popular sectors that had previously strongly supported Maduro and certainly before him Chavez, is palpable. And that has to do with prices, it has to do with public services. However, that does not translate, and it hasn't in the past, and it's unclear whether it does now, to support for the opposition, which on its own terms has advanced, certainly with these last few moves, and has advanced an agenda that is plunging Venezuela into a tremendous degree of political and social uncertainty.
Now, in the long clip, what he's saying is that everybody's ready for this. Yeah. In the long clip, they bring something up. I hope it's in here. If it's not, I'll talk about it. This whole situation of the collapsed economy in Venezuela, which the socialists are upset about because of the Bernies and the AOCs and the rest, because they would like to see something that was pure socialism actually work.
Now, are they also, but please tell me that certainly Bernie has also got to be saying, hey, man, maybe we shouldn't be doing these coups. Is he talking about that at all, or is he just saying leave the socialists to the socialists?
I haven't got any Bernie clips.
Okay.
I do know that he's all in for Maduro.
Sure.
But let's play the overview from Democracy Now!
I alert the people that a coup is being carried out against the institutions, against our democracy, against our constitution, against our president, Nicolas Maduro, the legitimate president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
The Venezuelan defense minister's comment came one day after President Trump announced the U.S. would recognize opposition leader Juan Guaido as Venezuela's new president. Guaido, the new head of Venezuela's National Assembly, declared himself president on Wednesday during a large opposition protest.
On Thursday, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo pledged to send $20 million to the Venezuelan opposition in the form of humanitarian aid to address the shortages of food and medicine caused in part by harsh U.S. sanctions. Pompeo made the announcement while speaking at the OAS, the Organization of American States.
Right.
The time for debate is done. The regime of former President Nicolas Maduro is illegitimate. His regime is morally bankrupt. It's economically incompetent, and it is profoundly corrupt. It is undemocratic to the core. I repeat, the regime of former President Nicolas Maduro is illegitimate. We therefore consider all of its declarations and actions illegitimate and invalid.
Secretary of State Pompeo's speech was interrupted by Code Pink founder Medea Benjamin, who'll join us later in the broadcast. In other developments, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has ordered the U.S. to remove all of its diplomats from Venezuela, but Washington is ignoring the request, claiming Maduro no longer has authority to take such action. While the U.S. Embassy in Caracas is staying open, the State Department has ordered non-essential diplomats and embassy staff to leave Venezuela. Meanwhile, Maduro has ordered all of Venezuela's diplomatic staff in the United States to return home.
The crisis is happening just weeks after Maduro was sworn into a second 6-year term following his victory in an election last May that was boycotted by several of the opposition groups. The international community remains split on the situation in Venezuela. On Thursday, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged all actors to, quote, lower tensions and pursue every effort to prevent violence and avoid any escalation. Mexico and Uruguay have urged all sides allies to hold negotiations. On Thursday, Mexico's new president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, spoke out against foreign intervention in Venezuela.
We should conduct foreign relations with the principles of non-intervention, of the self-determination of peoples, of peaceful solutions to disputes.
But many other countries in the hemisphere have joined with the United States in supporting the attempted coup. This includes Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Argentina, and Chile. Here in the United States, the leaders of the Democratic Party have also largely supported Trump's actions.
You know, we do have a new actor on the scene who has not really come up yet in any of the news reports, although I think they could have a field day with it. Elliot Abrams. Do you remember Elliot Abrams?
Oh, yeah.
He was involved in Iran-Contra. He worked for...
Yeah, he cropped up and he was, I guess...
National Security Advisor for
Trump's administration is what? I can't remember.
I'm sorry?
Didn't he just get put into some job?
Yeah, special envoy for Venezuela.
Right. Yeah.
Like 2 days ago. Like, hello. Yes.
Well,
and he did Iran-Contra. The guy knows exactly what to do. We're going to use local South American assets, which will be, you know, some kind of paramilitary mercenaries, and they're going to finish up the job. Yeah, wait, foam finger number one. Woo!
Now, what they've kind of hinted at there, but if you listen to enough of these reports.
Whoa. Did they come for you?
No, that was the...
Do we need to stop tape, John? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Mention
hey,
Elliot.
If you listen to enough of these reports, am I okay?
Yeah, but what did your mic fall off?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The problem, what it did was it knocked over my volume control, so I could barely hear you. But that's okay.
Well, no, go ahead. Turn it up. We can wait. Do you have your gaffer tape to fix that again? From the last time it happened?
There it is. Test.
Of course, whenever this happens, it never falls on your musical instruments and destroys them forever. That's too bad. Never does the recorder get destroyed, ever.
Anyway, so what they're leaving out is that the United States embargoes, the sanctions, they don't work, so much in Europe or places, or even Russia. I mean, they do work to a point, but they really do work. They worked very well in Venezuela, and what made it work, and it's the sanctions that brought the economy down over there.
Yeah.
And what really did the trick was they told Citgo, which is owned by Venezuela, it's their outlet for the refined products, gas stations all over the place. So when you're putting Citgo gasoline in your car, you're using Venezuelan crude as the base.
You're actually a commie when you use it.
So they told Citgo, because of the sanctions, they couldn't send any of the money back to Venezuela, all the profits from the gas stations.
Right. So it stayed here?
Yeah.
We are so good at this.
Well, it's true.
It's really, well, here's the thing.
But what's the
alternative?
At it is if some people would bring up the fact that we don't play fair, and this particular trick, which was a good one, just to freeze the assets, make them. I mean, we're not stealing the money. Let's put it that way. It still belongs to Citgo, but it can't leave the country.
Right.
And that is like over $1 billion that Venezuela could probably use. But no, they don't even have access to it.
The way I see this is it's kind of a non-starter choice. Yeah, either we do it, or Russia does it, or the Chinese do it.
Somebody's going to do it.
It is in South America. It's kind of close to us. So I understand the thinking. It doesn't make me feel much better about the New World Order, but I do understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's our we have, this is ours.
It's our turf, kind of.
It's like, that's why you can see why China gets so upset about us dicking around in Southeast Asia and places like that.
Because that should be their turf.
Very irked if the Chinese were, although they are very involved in Brazil, but now that we got our guy in Brazil, another pet peeve of Democracy Now! And the socialists, that may be ending, and we have.
Oh, really?
May have some better relationships with. That's why Brazil jumped on board with us on this Venezuela thing.
Ah, yes.
So Bolsonaro is going to be likely to be a good ally to us, and he may, help us fend off the Chinese from taking over South America.
Here's what I'm going to predict is, because this is much bigger than just Venezuela, of course. I think that we're going to see a deal with China, Trump and Xi, very soon to smooth over whatever those guys, the Chinese, need in Venezuela for their investments. I think that this may be a leveraging point that Trump would use to get the trade agreements in place. Feels like that's what's going to happen. Russia, I have no idea what they're doing other than...
I don't think Russia cares too much about this. Russia
they got 400
because they all that oil.
They got 400 special forces in there.
I know. I'm not... I'd like to know what what's going on.
Well, whenever someone sends in consultants, you know what that means. And they had gold mining rights, the Russians. In fact, they received it not even too long ago, I think.
Oh, that might be what it is. It could be the gold.
Let me see. Yeah, Venezuela gave Russia permission to mine gold, which is another issue that's wrapped up in all of this.
Well, Russia's maybe just sending people in to protect their gold assets.
That's possible. But the Chinese, they're really irked about it. So are the Venezuelans, actually. I hear they're not too happy with what's going on.
Yeah. But some of them, I think that professor that was at the first clip I played, or one of the early clips, I think he's Venezuelan, and he talks about this. It's the upper classes of Venezuela that have been, when Chavez was running the place, he kept them happy.
Yeah.
Maduro has not, and he's run him out of town, basically made him, that's part of the 3 million people that can afford to leave the country. There's a lot of poor people, but there's also many of the upper class and intellectual class in the country was forced out. And once you lose that group, it could be problematic because they have a lot of influence in other elsewhere. And that's what I think is part of what's going on.
Now, I also have the feeling that the Trump, knew nothing about this or was very unaware of it and just... Does that make any sense?
It's possible that he just, Pompeo's, it might be his, because he's ex-CIA.
It seems his baby. Yeah, of course. This is what CIA does. And that may not be so coincidental that we also have this Roger Stone fracas, which is dominating the news. I would say the ratio of Venezuela Roger Stone news is Venezuela 1, Stone 9, just in weight of what attention it's given.
Oh yeah, that and another, at least as much Stone coverage was the Trump caved coverage.
Yeah. He caved.
Trump caved. You got Roger Stone. You got all this very kind of almost the Hollywood Tonight style of stories versus Venezuela.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a real story.
Yeah, it's the only real story.
Yeah.
But it's not as entertaining and as as you'll find when we get to the Stone stuff.
Well, what else do you have on Venezuela? Because that's about all I've got.
I got this. Well, I got the quickie. This can already actually been played.
Well, what is the end game? What is the end game for Venezuela? We have to shut Maduro up. Everyone has to accept Guaido Bama. Once we've accepted him, then we can start doing the deals and making the Chinese whole and give the Russians whatever mining contracts they want. That seems like it would be something to that order. Which, as long as we control the oil, like Iraq, what could possibly go wrong?
Well, I would like to know what triggered this because we know that Chavez, this is pretty much the story of the book Economic Hitman.
Yes.
Economic Hitman, which is one of the, I think,
Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yeah, Confessions of an Economic Hitman is one of the primary books that the show uses for theory.
Yes, the first book, the first version of it, not the re-release after he got compromised.
Now, as the story goes, that it was Chavez who wouldn't play ball with us. And what that means is, I guess, turn over half the country to the United States interests. And he just wasn't going to do it. And they tried to kill him. And then he really he ran off all the journalists and everybody out of the country because they were all a bunch of stooges for the CIA. And then he took firm control of the country. And at some point, we kind of gave up. We let Citgo in. Citgo still has all these gas stations, and nobody does anything about that but we kind of gave up on it. And then when he handpicked Maduro to take over, I think that's when they put those whatever section that in these agencies, intelligence agencies, were working on Chavez problem. They started up again, and it took them about this long to get to this. It took 6 years because Maduro's been in for 6 years.
Right.
He just got reelected. So 6 years have gone by, and now we've decided to ramp it up again.
So Sinovenza, is a crude oil producer in Venezuela. And in September, the announcement came that Maduro said they had sold 9.9% of Sinovenza to the Chinese National Petroleum Corporation, who after that owned 49% of Sinovenza. So that's a problem. The Chinese will have a real issue with that.
Well, that's probably what triggered the whole thing.
That would be the catalyst, wouldn't it?
They wouldn't sell anything to us because we're trying to get in there.
Yeah.
And they're telling us to pound sand.
Yeah.
And so they let the Chinese waltz in and take 50% of the main refiner.
Yeah, over the past 10 years, China's invested.
That's more than an issue with us.
China invested over $50 billion in Venezuela in oil for loan agreements, securing energy supplies for its fast-growing economy. Right. Okay, so that would be the issue right there. And I think China's a little too far from home to get around us now. God, this is so evil.
It's great.
It's evil. It's just evil. And
yeah, but what's the evil part?
Oh, just how the world works. Well, it's nothing new to us, but if people really understood, just take a random college kid. He said, hey, this is actually how it still kind of works. I think they would. I mean, they can't even handle a red hat. Privilege. They can't even handle a red hat. I mean, just listen.
Privilege.
White privilege. Yeah. It's just nothing changes. Nothing changes. It's all the same.
One thing changed.
Well, little.
No, one big thing.
No, China.
No, the college kids are stupid.
Yeah. They certainly are getting an interesting education. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Coming out to be stupid.
So I guess that makes sense that the joint venture and the sale giving China 49% of their crude company is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, China has every right to do that, and they have every right to have that commerce, but I guess for us, it's just we just can't handle that. So we have to go down and mess everything up.
We don't trust the Chinese.
No, they're not to be trusted. Just look at your individual interactions with them. The Chinese believe that everyone's space is everyone's, so get out of my space. It's my space. It's your space. They don't care whose space it is. They're rude. They think it's funny when they can steal something from us. I'm not saying anything else, and that's how Chinese are. That is their culture. And they admit it.
Well, that's why they have such harsh penalties in China for what we would think of as simple infractions.
Right.
They'll hang some guy.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't help. Anyway,
well, with that one guy, it might.
Sorry?
Well, if they hang one guy, for that one guy, it might change, but not for everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now what?
We're getting closer to what's going, but it's going to fall apart. This is a coup, and we're going to. This looks like one that the agency or whoever's behind the actual activities is not going to botch. It looks like it won't be botched.
No. I also think it's not necessarily the Central Intelligence Agency. I think this is the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
I don't know where you get that from, but
maybe I can't tell you where I got it from.
But why? I don't care where you got it from, but why? What would be the rationale?
They've grown their capabilities way beyond what CIA does. They are the true spy agency now, in my humble estimation, because they're looking from space. They got everything going, and they changed their name from National Geospatial Agency to National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Gives you a clue.
Really?
Space Force.
Space Force.
Just think of all these things. Think of all these things coming together. Yeah.
Space Force.
Yeah, they have incredible capabilities, and I think it may they're military. They're military. They're military intelligence. So who's running the show? Is the CIA running the show? I don't think CIA is running any show anymore. Yeah, the Roger Stone show. That's what they're running.
Well, let's talk about the Roger Stone show.
Yeah, who pops up after months of being quiet? Months. He's not anywhere to be found. Roger Stone gets arrested. Who pops up?
Who?
Brennan. All of a sudden,
I didn't see. He may have popped up to you. I didn't see one instance of Brennan anywhere.
Right there on the Morning Joes.
Mr. Director, good to see you. I know you haven't read through the indictment. We're still reading through it ourselves. But what's your initial reaction to the arrest of Roger Stone?
The term that's being used is unsurprising. Everybody was expecting this. Roger Stone was expecting it as well. But like many people in the Trump orbit, Mr. Stone has an established track record of being unethical and unprincipled. And now this is catching up with him. And now a 7-count indictment, I think, is a very serious one.
Wait, stop. Start the clip over and tell me that that everybody in this discussion admitted that they didn't read the indictment.
Oh yeah, no, this keeps going. This is like, I didn't read it. Of course they all read it. He's liars. It comes back. I read it. It comes back. This I didn't read it comes back in a moment. So instead of starting it over, I'll just continue.
Okay,
it comes back. You're absolutely right about that, though.
But it shows that the special counsel's office is uncovering the evidence it needs. And so just like Mr. Stone's indictment, I'm not going to be surprised by the other indictments that are going to be coming down the pike very soon.
Roger Stone has said recently, I will never testify against Donald Trump. Do you think that calculus has changed this morning?
I think it's changing and will change. If he decides to go down for Mr. Trump, it's going to be, his loss. But I think there are many people who have that position and then change it very quickly when, as was said, the federal guidelines, sentencing guidelines, tend to sink into them.
So he shows up all of a sudden, just after months of being very quiet, says he hasn't. I'll come on the air. Sure. I mean, I've been so busy, haven't had time. But for Roger Stone, I think I got this massive importance. Nothing about Venezuela. No. Just about Roger Stone. So what exactly are these? I know you haven't read the indictment, but oh my gosh, what are these indictments and what crimes and who else is going to get indicted?
How many more indictments would you expect among the senior Trump campaign officials?
Listen to him laughing.
What a dick.
He's incredible.
How many more indictments would you expect among the senior Trump campaign officials that are referenced in here? Stone told senior Trump campaign officials about materials possessed by Organization 1 WikiLeaks. So that's in the multiple. And then also there is a Trump supporter that Stone was interfacing with about the WikiLeaks drop.
Well, I expect that probably within the next 60 days, you're going to have a fair number of indictments. A significant number of indictments.
Significant.
I think people are waiting for the report that is coming out from Bob Mueller, but what I look for most is the indictments, and they're so rich in detail. To me, I think all of these indictments are going to be basically the compendium of the Robert Mueller investigation, special counsel's investigation.
Really? So all these indictments that he has of process crimes, pretty much, and crimes outside of the scope, for tax evasion, that's going to be the compendium, i.e. he's going to have a binder filled with all these indictments, and that will be the report. It's the compendium. Sounds like a great work product.
And you got the right term. They're process crimes.
Exactly. As they were processing, the crimes took place. But let's listen to non-reading indictment people.
So I expect there to be a significant number and a significant number of names that are going to be quite familiar to the average American.
Ooh, everybody who has a name familiar with the American people, be on alert. You're warned.
Brennan, as you kind of watch the Mueller dominoes fall, and you said More to come very, very soon. Who's the next domino? I'll put you on the spot. I'm going to Jimmy the Greek here. Who's the next domino?
I don't know.
That's all.
See, he teases. He sits there and like, oh, big names. What names? Oh, I don't know.
Speculate. Give me a
No, I'm not going to speculate. No, because people are innocent until alleged to be involved in some type of criminal activity.
Wait. People are innocent until alleged to be involved in some kind of criminal activity. Just listen to the new laws of the nation, please.
Wow, that is the clip of the day that you caught that.
Let's listen to it again.
You got to ISO that. If people are innocent until they're alleged.
No, I'm not going to speculate. No, because people are innocent until alleged to be involved in some type of criminal activity.
Clip of the day.
You're innocent until you're proven guilty.
No, until it's alleged.
You're not innocent until you're alleged.
This is the former director of CIA who has this high
Muslim.
But it has nothing to do with if he's a Muslim or not. You're just pissed at him now.
No, I'm not going to speculate. No, because people are innocent until alleged to be involved in some type of criminal activity.
Director Brennan, I noticed in leafing through this indictment, we've only just gotten it, that it appears Roger Stone is only indicted for things that happened after the investigation began. But you said an investigation was underway.
Sounds like someone was able to read the indictment. It sounds like no one read it, and then this guy read it, and okay.
Investigation began. But you said an investigation was underway back in 2016. Can we read from this indictment that the special counsel's office believes that what Roger Stone did in 2016 before he committed these lying to investigators or whatever, that was all legal?
No. Again, I haven't read the indictment, and I know that in the summer of 2016, I had numerous conversations with Jim Comey about what was happening in terms of what the Russians were doing, what was being pushed out publicly, how they got access to the information, who might have facilitated the release of information. And so whether or not Roger Stone was involved in any of that, again, I defer to the special counsel's office, but it was an ongoing, very intense investigation at that time to see what U.S. persons or officials might have been working with the Russians, either wittingly or unwittingly, to interfere in the election.
And pay attention to the words wittingly or unwittingly. They will be very important. I'm convinced of it. It crops up with Brennan, but the person who initially used it in a lie was Clapper, who was asked if the NSA ever has any kind of eavesdropping on American citizens, and he lied, and he said, well, no, at least not wittingly. What is the exact definition of wittingly?
Let's look it up where I explain my Muslim comments, because we have so many dudes named Muhammad. I don't want to offend them.
Hold on.
I'm going to change calling him a Muslim to calling him a Salafist.
Okay. Okay, and
which is a sect.
Yes.
That is the radical one, and I don't think we have one Salafist who listens to the show, maybe, but I'm sure he doesn't donate. So I'll just stay with that, Salafist, because he has to be a Salafist. He supposedly went through the process in Saudi Arabia, which is a Wahhabist, generally speaking, which is a Salafist offshoot. So, yeah.
Merriam-Webster definition of wittingly is, it's interesting, chiefly dialectal. I'm not sure why that strikes me as odd that props up as so it means that you knowingly did something, but it talks about dialectal. I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to interpret that.
That means yes or no, so it's dialectic.
Pure yes or no. Okay. So wittingly or unwittingly.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's that term. I hear these terms, they pop up once in a while.
I'm hearing one from Roger Stone, which he started off with his first getting arrested, right after the arrest.
Yeah, I have the CNN, the live stuff, like about a minute.
When CNN got tipped off that he was going to be.
It's not even tipped off. I mean, first of all, they call it exclusive because it's exclusive. They're sitting there, they're waiting, they know what's happening. This is part of the setup. Everybody involved in this, from the Mueller side, and I'm sure Brennan knew as well, this was set up. Listen.
This is just remarkable. It's just remarkable to watch, what they call... Okay, that's it, FBI, open the door. And now they're about to say another warning.
She sure seems to know what's happening.
FBI warrant. This is called, the grab shot in the vernacular, and it
is that true? I've never heard of the grab shot in the television vernacular, but I guess they have it. Have you ever heard of this? The grab shot?
No, I haven't, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist in some news organizations.
Never heard this before.
It is remarkable to watch this all unfold.
You can see Roger Stone there, a little bit behind that
By
door.
the way, hold on a second. Stop before you go on. This 6 a.m, they brought their SWAT team out, a bunch of tanks and armored vehicles,
all kinds of stuff.
And they're pounding on your door. I don't know about you, but at 6 a.m, if I'm sleeping, I'm in a back bedroom or I'm someplace, I don't know how big that house was.
Yeah.
But I can't pop up and open the door. It would take me 5 minutes or longer. And they didn't give him 5 minutes. I'm surprised that he got to the door as fast as he did.
I have no idea. I mean, the whole thing is sketchy, and you heard Brennan. You heard Brennan say even Roger Stone knew this was going to happen. He said it right at the beginning of the first clip. Roger Stone knew it was going to happen. Everybody knew it was going to happen. So I guess that means no surprise. Let's listen to the rest of this.
Standard operating procedure for the FBI to show up heavily armed
in riot gear
like this, but they didn't do this for other people connected in the investigation. So it is remarkable that they did this with...
What? They didn't do that for, what's his face? For,
Mueller?
No.
Manafort?
Manafort. Didn't they do the exact same thing?
I think it was done procedurally different. First, they busted into his place at 3 a.m. to just go through his papers.
No, okay.
And then I think they arrested him, but they didn't arrest him with the armored vehicles and the flak jackets on, as though it's going to be a firefight.
But they didn't do this for other people connected in the investigation. So it is remarkable that they did this without warning, without any indication to Stone's lawyers beforehand that this would happen. We don't know also if they executed a search warrant on the house.
I mean, as Ann just told us, the reason they do that is because they fear that the person's going to be a flight risk, so they want to do it under the cover of darkness with a surprise, or they think that there's so much evidence inside the room, inside the house, that they don't want to give anybody lead time, a heads up to try to hide some of that evidence. So that's what we just watched this morning.
All right, if you wouldn't mind, I'll try and piece together what I've discussed with some of our DC producers over the past couple of days. Because this really is just show, it's all for show. And what the ultimate reason is either this is some kind of end game, which means, you heard that the compendium of this type of activity would be Mueller's report. It's very possible that the fall guy for all of the non-provable collusion Trump stuff could be Roger Stone. It's very conceivable. He's also the perfect guy for it, if you think about it. He's a villain. He's creepy. He's got all the elements that could be used as, clearly this guy was no good. We got to get rid of him. Here's what I understood. We have to take a couple basic principles of the No Agenda show into account. One, there is a continuous war between military intelligence and central intelligence. And central intelligence or military intelligence, either one of them will, quote unquote, run the president. So, of course, Bush Sr., probably Bush Jr., it's all CIA, Obama, CIA. For sure, Trump has been DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. You want to say something?
I was just going to say you left out Clinton.
I'm not sure about Clinton. I'd probably CIA. I wouldn't think it would be anything else.
That's what I would think. Because he was running drugs.
Mm-hmm. That's what they do. Okay, so you need to take that into account. Now, you also have to know about Roy Cohn. Does this name ring a bell?
Yeah, Roy Cohn is the old lawyer that was...
He was McCarthy's lawyer. He was the advisor on the McCarthy trials, getting rid of communism.
Yeah.
He
was also a kick-ass attorney in New York.
Yes. And he was in all the bathhouses with Roger Stone, with, you'll love this, Bolton. What's his face?
John Bolton.
John Bolton. Gay stuff. Gay bathhouses. George W. Bush. And as mentor, and who knows what else to Donald Trump and Roger Stone. So this is like this gay cabal going on in the 70s, pre-AIDS, mind you. And so everybody knows each other, and there's a lot of stuff going on. There's always this weird, kinky sex stuff that gets everybody in trouble. But Roger Stone has always been an intelligence person like CIA, FBI. Just look at his history with Nixon. So we know what he's doing. We know what his ties are to intelligence, or were, or if they're still there, I don't know. Now, where does Roger Stone work? Roger Stone, right now, his only gig, or his prominent gig, is InfoWars, Alex Jones. You have to be of the belief that Alex Jones is quite possibly, his rise came through the Defense Intelligence Agency. It's not like they're sitting there writing him checks, but yeah, I think there's ways that they can make that happen. And so they, as a dialectic, I guess. So there's, you have your alternative media, which have been going. Jones have been doing this for 15 years. Austin, Texas is definitely military intelligence. Stratford, all these places. Bobby Inman lives here.
Yeah, but he's CIA.
Bobby Inman is still ultimately military. He's Army. He's a military guy.
I think he's Navy.
Okay, military. We just got the Air Force, the Future Command coming in with billions of dollars. This is not an accident. This is Austin is military intelligence. And I would say it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that Alex Jones came to rise after his cable show with the internet through military intelligence maneuvering. Things just seem to work for him. And okay.
I want you to continue your thinking and this thought, but I want to throw just a random clip in because what you said fits in with the ISO I was selecting for the end of the show. This 2-second clip.
Okay.
But Roger, there is a war on alternative media.
There's a war on alternative media.
Oh, for sure. Now here's what, and the problem is Roger Stone. And again, this is just what I've pieced together, and I'm shooting from the hip, but with some input from our producer. So you kind of have to take these assumptions into account. So we have this military intelligence Alex Jones thing running along, and then all of a sudden we get Roger Stone involvement, and this is a big problem because this is like the enemy coming into the camp. Why is he there? And and there's also all this weird gay sex stuff going on with Roger Stone. And just look around and see what's going on with Alex Jones and Stone and a couple other people at InfoWars. I can't accuse anybody of anything, but you can kind of think there may be something odd happening. So Roger Stone is not only a problem for the Defense Intelligence Agency, but for CIA as well. It's like we can't have these guys working together doing pillow talk. I don't know. Look, this is what I've been told. Now, what happens and I don't know if it's coincidental that Tim Cook is gay, but he's the first one to deplatform Alex Jones. Some message goes out. This has to stop. This guy has to stop. We got to stop the Stone thing. We've warned Alex Jones. Boom, he's gone. It just continued. It just kept on going. So this is the next step because they really have nothing on him. Yeah, they got some. He lied about this or that. Well, it's really nothing involving Trump.
Oh, it's great to read the indictment. I want to mention a few things as an aside. Mm-hmm. In there, they keep talking about how he told some guy to lie. One of his buddies to lie to Congress when all he did, and it's very clear in the indictment, was tell him to plead the Fifth.
Yes,
that's not telling somebody.
It's not telling someone to lie. No. So what I think you're seeing here is a very easy fall guy. Now, maybe we can say, well, at the time this Venezuela stuff is happening, why don't we just drop Roger Stone into the meat grinding machine that is the M5M cable news media and Twitter and everything, and just let it chop up and let the blood and the guts and the bone pieces fly around while we're off there making our deal in Venezuela. And let this be part of the compendium. And to then have Brennan, not to come out for the Venezuela story. No, Brennan comes out after Roger Stone is swatted for an indictment. And of course, he didn't even have to pay an actual bail amount. He just signed and he walked out. So all of a sudden we have the former director of CIA after months of missing in action he pops up is obvious. And I would say anyone near Alex Jones, go away. You should back away from the operation. I don't think that's going to end very well.
Well, that's a good thesis.
Now let's listen to the third clip I have on Brennan. And it's a good question from the Morning Joe people. With it's kind of leading as well. With these indictments, what is the story Bob Mueller is trying to tell us?
What's the story, as you see it, that Mueller has begun to tell with the public information that we have?
That there was an extensive effort to try to influence the outcome of the election that involved the Russians, that involved U.S. persons, and that may have gone to the very top of the Trump campaign. And so I think the shoes that are yet to drop are going to be the ones that are going to be the most profound and that will hit the people at the top of the organization. Who that is?
Top of the organization, meaning Donald Trump?
It may be, may not.
Including family members?
Well, I think, clearly they have been talked to. They've been interviewed by the FBI. I think there's a fair amount of vulnerability that they might have on this. But again, I defer to the special counsel's office to make the determination about whether what they did crossed that threshold from collusion, which I think is quite evident, to criminal conspiracy. And it's whether or not it's past that threshold that is going to lead into an indictment of individuals that are close to Mr. Trump, that are part of his family, or others.
Now, I want to be very clear about what I was saying earlier about the gay cabal. Again, go look up Roy Cohn, C-O-H-N. Look at what he did. Look at where he came from. He's a Jew. He's a Jew, self-hating Jew, homophobic gay guy. It's an incredible story.
Self-loathing is the term.
Self-loathing. Okay, self-loathing. Loathing, yes. All right. You understood what I was saying.
No, I know all about Roy Cohn.
The bathhouses, and it was Trump, Bolton, who is oddly right there in the Trump cabinet. Lord knows why. Maybe we figured it out. Roger Stone, George W. Bush. And if you doubt me, go look for the Washington Post front page story about my uncle Donald Gregg, giving midnight tours in the White House to gay prostitutes for President George H. Walker Bush. I mean, this is not like a big thing I'm making up here. This is well known, but never really discussed because it's always the sex stuff that brings these people down every single time. They can't keep it in their pants.
Yeah, they're bored.
Yeah, that's probably a part of it.
Well, I have a bunch of Roger clips that I thought were worth going through.
Good.
Now, he went on Tucker immediately after the arrest, and it was one of these moments on Tucker where, although Tucker's always got this kind of flabbergasted look on his face all the time with the kind of mouth open, it's like, just kind of like, oh my God, am I hearing what I'm hearing?
The sad dog.
That look.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's one of those times where Tucker wasn't like trying to be, trying to start a fight or anything. He was actually letting Stone go on and on so he could display that look of, oh my God.
He's taking it a little further. He's kind of like, you're so sad. It's, oh my God, this is horrible. I can't believe this is happening. That's, it's bankrupting you. That's the take Tucker is very compromised in his own way. I'm a little disappointed in some of the stuff he's doing, but okay.
Well, but he did get Stone on and nobody else did. And so let's start with the Roger on Tucker on Arrest A clip.
When he's the only one that has Stone on, no one else did, that's when you want to ask questions.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
And we saw the very large number of armed federal agents bringing you out of the house. Is there something we don't know? Do you have an arsenal at home? Had you made threats against prosecutors, threats of violence? I mean, is there context that we don't have?
No. First of all, it's disconcerting that CNN was aware that I would be arrested before my lawyers were informed. So that's disturbing. If it was a dangerous situation, which would merit the SWAT team, well, then CNN's cameraman would be in danger. I don't know why they would be allowed to be there.
By the way, good point. If you watch the video, the cameramen are like right up in their grill. It's not like a huge distance shot. They're in the bushes. They're off to the left. A fair point about it being a big setup.
I had no firearm in the house. I don't have a permit for a firearm. I don't own a firearm.
Things I would never say on television. It's like, wow, no, that's something.
Let's go rob that guy.
You just don't admit these things.
For a firearm, I don't own a firearm. Only my wife, my 2 dogs, and my 3 cats were at home. I'm not a flight risk. In fact, I think my passport has expired, or it will expire in a few days. I have no record of criminal past. And frankly, they just could have contacted my attorney, and I would have voluntarily turned myself in. The proof of this is that only hours later, the judge granted me a $250,000 surety bond, meaning on my signature with no funds put forward, because I'm not a flight risk. And as far as the government's contention that they were concerned that I would destroy evidence, they've been in my email and my text messages and my phone calls for 2 years, probably longer, because the New York Times reported on January 20th, 17, that I was among 3 people in the Trump campaign under active surveillance.
Yeah, believe me, a lot of people were reading his email and listening to his phone, not just one agency.
Well, that brings up this clip here. This is the Roger War on the Press clip, which is kind of an interesting. This was probably scripted between him and Tucker, but it's pretty good.
So it's clear. I mean, it's clear from reading the indictment, and you've been saying it for at least a year, that the feds were spying on your texts.
There's no question about it.
I don't think there's any question. I agree, based on the indictment that they released today. So given that they're reading all of your texts, you text with a huge number of journalists, including me, and some of them, work for CNN even maybe. All of those texts were being read by a federal prosecutor. What do you think those journalists, some of whom are talking about this case right now on TV, think of that?
That's the amazing thing, is the press is not coming out and standing up against this war against free expression, this war against the First Amendment, which is really a war against the press.
Well, it's flabbergasting, really. Why would the press?
Stunned.
Why would the press do it?
I'm telling you.
I can't believe they're not fighting against this.
He goes on with this thesis, or just probably before that last clip, because that was near the end. But play Roger on the war on free speech.
The charges against you, which are primarily for lying to Congress. And one of the things that you're accused of lying to Congress about is whether or not there was any evidence, you had evidence of communication between you and an intermediary and Julian Assange. Did you lie about that? Again, given that you knew that they had your electronic communications and would know the answer already, wouldn't that be a stupid thing to lie about? What is this charge about?
Yes, indeed. It's really simple. I did forget that I had text messages from an old cell phone that were entirely exculpatory, which proved that everything I had said about Credico being my source regarding the significance and the October release date of the WikiLeaks material was accurate. I believe he lied to the grand jury about that. That's been reported, but he appears not to be being prosecuted for perjury. But I forgot exculpatory information, and therefore I will. If anybody had bothered to read my website, The Stone Cold Truth, they would know that I've basically refuted and documented the refutation of virtually every charge in this indictment. The indictment is thin indeed. So what is this about? It's about silencing me. There's a war on alternative media. There's a war where they're trying to criminalize political expression. There's a war where they're trying to criminalize free speech.
Yeah.
I like that.
Two of our producers independently said to me, nothing in this world ever happens by accident. And I think that makes a lot of sense in this case. And Roger Stone, it may just be the Hail Mary for Mueller. Like, use this guy. Everything about him is wrong. Or actually
it could
perfect.
be a Hail Mary. That's a very interesting idea. But one of the things, I'm not going to I got one more clip I'll play. Sure. The other one's not that important, which is him whining about going broke, which probably is.
He might be. He might be. Yeah.
Yeah, but he can make a comeback. And it is kind of a shame that the system can just break somebody, but they can. This is his use of the term, and he used it a lot when he first got arrested, and he's going to continue to use it. And he's either using it to send a message to some Christians who are going to be told to testify or something. And
yes, I like that idea.
So he uses this term over and over. He never says the word lie. He uses the term, and this clip has an example of it, of bearing false witness.
The efforts to shut down my show at InfoWars, the efforts to silence Alex Jones, who's one of my greatest supporters and proponents, are part of this war. So I intend to plead not guilty. I believe I will be vindicated. It's funny to watch Preet Bharara on CNN say this is a slam dunk, calls me a liar. Here's a guy who a federal judge lashed for lying in the William Walton case. You're the liar, Preet. So, and then watching reporters jump to conclusions, Tucker, and say, oh, well, the Trump campaign official who directed Stone to find out about WikiLeaks was Donald Trump. No, it was not. There are several things in here in the indictment that are simply not true.
So who was it if it wasn't the president? Who is?
Well, I have to speculate about that because since it never happened, it appears to me that they have composed testimony for someone. Perhaps Rick Gates, perhaps Steve Bannon, perhaps someone is bearing false witness against me. But knowing what's in my email and my text messages, there is no corroboration whatsoever for this.
Yeah, there's so much more when it comes to specifically these guys in Florida and Broward County and Sheriff Scott Israel from the school that got shot up, Roger Stone, good friends with him, Trump, Mar-a-Lago, Maxwell, remember the billionaire with his daughter who then, all these sex cults. It's a mess, and Trump is in it. He's in the middle of this sex mess in Florida, and I think there's Epstein. All of this stuff. It's the more you look, the more you want to look away. And I think Stone really had to be. He's probably lucky they did it this way. To be honest, I think he's such a talker. He has so much information. He's a real liability for all parties. All parties. See, none of the truth can really come out about any of this because all of that stuff has to come up. Again, just coincidental that the Miami Herald does this huge expose on Epstein. The Broward County up in arms with all these different things. Yes?
Stone said in one of his interviews, he said that he's looking forward to this case actually going forward because he wants to see, because this is where a lot of money gets chewed up too. He says he wants to see what they have on him in discovery. And they're going to start asking the thing. These cases don't get resolved, and people there's some guy on NBC going, he's going to be guilty for sure because these indictments are well written. And I'm listening to this clown.
Yeah.
He's the MSNBC legal analyst, once the chief of the DEA. And he's one of these tough guys, talks like this.
There you go.
And he went on and on about this, and I'm thinking, I doubt it because for one thing, the indictment is lame and very lame. And it's going to open up a can of worms if it actually goes to trial. I think they just you're probably right. You indict him, have him sign the surety bond, go home, and now he has to shut up, especially because he's going to plead not guilty. I'm sure of that.
Sure.
Because he doesn't want to bear false witness against the president. And so he's going to – but then it just stays there like that, and he can't do anything. He can't go talking because it's all going to be used – he just can't – it shuts him up.
And all the intelligence community doesn't like what Stone is doing, don't like these kind of people. They like drinking, no drugs, booze, and women. That's the intelligence community. We don't do any of the crazy bathhouse stuff. Everyone wanted this guy out of the way. I'm telling you, he's lucky to be alive, in my opinion. And he may just be the fall guy. This is why Brennan comes out and says, oh, it's the compendium here. It's all going to come together. And for those of you who tune out after we say goodbye and don't listen to the end of show mixes, I'll give you a little tease of what Sir Chris Wilson has put together there down under.
How does it feel? Yeah, how does it feel to be dragged from your home and to the black van you're from, like a Roger Stone?
I mean, do we have the best producers, or do we have the best producers?
Yeah, well, we do have the best producers.
And with that, I'd like to thank them, but also like to thank you and say in the morning to you, John C., where the C stands for a crude Texas tea, Dvorak.
Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. Also in the morning to all the ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and nights out there.
In the morning to the troll room, noagendastream.com, which is now pretty much 24/7 a great place to hang out. This morning, Void Zero did a little musical show. People are doing more and more live stuff, more producers getting on the stream. It's heating up. We like that. So thank you for joining us this morning. Also in the morning to Mike Riley, who brought us the artwork through the No Agenda Art Generator. For episode 1106. The title of that was Smart Wall, and we could not have been more timely with that because that's pretty much exactly the only words people were talking about the wall for the 2 days after that show. And this was the GPOT, the Goat Power, the greatest podcast of all time, with the ram's horn on the front. Just a nice piece of art. And there were other fun pieces, but they didn't have the composition. They just didn't have...
Popped.
Well, it popped major league. Yeah, it really popped. And so, Mike, thank you very much, Mike Riley. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com, where our artists are always uploading fantastic pieces of artwork. We change it on every single show. Not every single podcast app will show our brand new art, and I recommend you go get a different app if they don't, because it's just
we're in spec.
We adhere to the spec. That's right. Being one of the creators of said spec, we adhere to the spec.
Yeah. Inexcusable.
All right. How'd we do on value for value?
Well, we
today?
got a few people that came in bigly.
Okay. You said that 2 times now.
Yeah, I've decided to make that the show's word, the word of the show.
No, I really don't think so.
Do you not think so, bigly?
No, I think it sounds lamely.
Dear John, starts the note from Dame Kathy and Sir Greg.
Oh.
This Baroness of the Fox River Valley.
Aren't they in Sammamish?
And Baron of the Chicago Portage.
And where aren't they in? Why am I thinking they're in Sammamish?
They're in West Chicago.
Oh, okay. All right.
And they came up with $700.
Holy crap.
It's $350 each.
This is the whole family, right? This Dame Kathy, Sir Greg.
The Baron, family of barons.
It's fantastic. It's royalty in Chicago.
It is West Chicago.
Yes.
It's a different town.
Got it.
It is our considered opinion that your deserved clip of the day for President Truth last Sunday. Let me read that again. It's our, because I didn't read it with the right emphasis. It is our considered opinion that you, John, deserved clip of the day for President Truth last Sunday. So her request for jingle for the $700 donation is that you play clip of the day jingle, even though it won't count.
No, I won't do that.
What?
No, I won't do that.
$700 donation from 2 barons?
I'll play.
You won't play just the clip so we can just listen to the clip. Does it refer to anything?
No, you said I have to play the clip of the day jingle.
Yeah.
It wasn't clip of the day.
Well, I know, but you're not playing it for the clip of the day. You're just playing it gratuitously as the requested clip.
No, I'll do it, but I have a real problem with it. I feel that this is the beginning of the end, if that's how it's going to go.
If anyone, it'd be a great end.
Oh, that's true. You got a point.
Clip of the day.
And then give them some karma.
Oh, they want that too.
Yeah.
They're
the number 1 donors today. What do you got against them? What, do you hate them?
No, I think...
You don't like Chicago?
Clip of the day is something sacred that only you or I could hand out. And there's plenty of time. Because you know what will happen? I'm telling you what's going to happen. Every single, be like, oh, he should have had clip of the day. Give him clip of the day. Clip here should be clip of the. Everyone has an opinion on clip of the day.
On.
Everyone has no. Here's the karma.
You've got karma.
I have principles. I feel it. I feel it's selling out.
But I'm going to ask that the following take place.
I feel it's selling out.
Any donation of $700 by anyone can request that you play that jingle for whatever reason.
Okay, deal. Yeah. Not 701, not 699, 7.
Yeah, 7 even.
Okay. All right, that's acceptable.
New donation level.
That's acceptable.
Your feeling is going to push us off. I am predicting we'll get not even one more of these requests.
Your predictions are kind of iffy lately.
I do have my ups and downs. But that prediction that we will hold, you watch. We will not see another $700 donation.
Oh, not only that, but you will not see a clip of the day ever again.
Yeah, sure. Patrick W. in Wichita, Kansas, 33333. I have the note for him too. Pat. I have to get my glasses. Dear John and Adam, my son hit me in the mouth about 3 years ago, but I did not listen to you regularly until around and after the presidential election. I've been somewhat astonished at the change in the news reporting over the past 2 years. You have convinced me that the news business is a business, supplying what the customers and advertisers want.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Customers, advertisers equal same thing.
Yeah, of course it's a business. That's the problem. With online news reinforcing our own beliefs, I fear the dimensions will divide more and more completely over the next few years, and the fake news is our future. Well, I think that's been documented. Your analysis has been a breath of fresh air for me. My wish is for the new year that more people listen to the greatest podcast in the universe, No Agenda. I'm sorry to admit that this is my first donation. Please de-douche me.
You've been de-douched.
I'd like to apply this donation to my son Graham Wolf's total to knighthood. To the total for his knighthood. Doesn't make it yet. I would also like to request a birthday call-off for him on January 29th, Kansas Day, which we put on the list. Many good wishes to you both. Could you play the We Are the World Trump parody? Thank you both. I don't even remember the We Are the World Trump parody.
I don't.
We are the world. We are the Trumps. It just doesn't ring a bell.
This does not ring a bell to me either. Trump. We are
the world.
Yeah, I know. I know that, but I don't remember what that was. We are the world. It's not something. I'm sorry. I really don't remember. I need to. If you could tell me what the lyrics were of it, then maybe I would know.
I don't remember it either. But so anyway, so Pat, we'll play that eventually.
Yeah.
If we figure out what it is.
Once we know what it is.
It'll be a while. Rob Sanderson in Annapolis, Maryland, 33333. And he sends a note. These are checks that came in, which saved the show. I was planning to send you a donation next month for my birthday, February 23rd, which we put on the list today. It's a little in advance, but we did it anyway.
We're good for it.
But the failing trend in the year-to-year support you cited in last Sunday's newsletter, last January was fantastic, and this January stinks. Called me to action. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Here's my donation at 333.33 for the best podcast in the universe. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have you to provide me with the most straightforward, honest, and entertaining deconstructions of the half-truths, spin, and hypocrisy that the M5M spews every day. Unlike them, you definitely have no agenda. Can I have the following jingle request? And I'm sorry that I didn't give you these earlier. But the following was aim any collusion, which is you got at the ready. Fact check false. Shut up slave. The Lizzie version.
Okay. Any collusion. Fact
check false.
Fact check false. And what's the other one?
Lizzie's shut up slave. The little kid.
Yeah, I'm always getting that one wrong. I got it here. Okay. Also, here's what I found. This is interesting. It's love trumps hate, not we are the world. There we go. And I'll play the full version at the end of the show. It's amazing how we went from We Are the World to the actual jingle the person wanted. Thank you, Troll Room.
Any collusion?
Fact check false.
Shut up, slave.
You've got karma.
Anyway, he continues his note. I continue to look forward to each and every episode and savor the time I spend with the two of you each week. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and then he has a PS, which I need to read. Okay. Your job's karma really works. A few months back, I was assigned to a different manager, and it's made a world of difference in my work life. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. And just thank the karma, not us.
Yes, we got nothing to do with it. It wasn't even our idea.
No. In fact, most of the show is not our idea, come to think of it.
Right, yeah, we're just conduits for the collective unconscious of the producers.
Yeah, man, conduits.
Yeah, we're conduits, man, for the collective unconscious.
Finger snaps,
super organic.
finger snaps, man, finger snaps. Smell batch.
Samuel Cook, 333.00. Hammer and screw, no jingle, no karma. Okay.
Hammer and screw.
I think it's referring to us.
Hammer and screw. Well, it's clearly rhyming slang.
Or it's code. Oh, it could be rhyming slang.
Yes, hammer and code. No, wait. Hammer and screw. Oh, I know what it is. Hammer and screw. Shape-shifting Jew. It's just a guess, John.
Right this way. Roll up for the shape-shifting Jews.
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Jonas Astrom, parts unknown. Well, he's parts unknown, but he's in Sweden. Greetings from Gitmo Nation Flat Pack.
Hi,
Outstanding shows of late. Please give a goat karma to all the No Agenda listeners.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. Of course we'll do that.
You've got karma.
Then we move to the associate executive producer, starting with Laura Wilson in Sammamish, Washington, $250. My husband and I have been listening to your podcast for over 2 years. He's Sir Austin of the Snowy Cascades. You're the best real news out there, and you have changed how we watch M5M, sometimes laughing out loud. That's better than shouting at the TV, which is what I do. You guys are killing it. This donation gets me to damehood, and in thanks to the fabulous jobs karma requested on my behalf, I have landed a new job and am ready for the next chapter of my career to begin. I start tomorrow and feel this will be my good luck charm. Thanks for the help. Because it's so, thanks to karma. Because it's so good, please play some hilarious Al Sharpton tidbits, your choice, and please give anyone who needs it some Nancy Pelosi jobs karma, because seriously, guys, this shit works. Thanks.
Nice.
Please allow me at the round table with the title Dame Laura of the Snowy Cascades. So we got a dame and a sir of the Snowy Cascades.
You betcha.
Resist, we much. We must. They're all jitty about a shutdown. The tortoise in the race. Then co-author of Hubris. U2 lead singer Bono. Fran Drescher. Sigourney Weaver. Suspect Jahar Tsarnaev. Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh. The show Rush Lombard hosts Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Is Mike Muckery yesterday. Antonin Scalia, Kim Kardashian, and the Republican candidates, both Cairo and Benghazi. We rank behind
jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
You know, that particular one of the many compilations is, I think, the funniest.
And I love that he was talking about a shutdown, because that's when this clip was from the last shutdown.
Yeah.
Just every shutdown, just record Al. He's great.
He's jitty.
He's all jitty with it. You know, I say this in normal life, and I forget that not everyone knows the No Agenda Show vocabulary. And I'll say, oh, yeah, getting all jitty with it. People look at me like,
What?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with this guy?
We know about the Tourette's, but this is going a bit far now.
I had this theory the why he said jitty, because he's reading off the prompter.
Yes. He's the
and he sees giddy, G-I-D-D-Y, but he pronounces GIF.
Yeah, correctly.
As opposed to GIF. He pronounces GIF correctly. So he sees that G, thinks it's a soft G, and he says jitty instead of giddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's dumb. Anonymous in Sillwell, Kansas, $240. He sent a note in. By the way, there's two notes that came in, both of them on the exact same kind of weird scrap paper. It's very strange. Feels good to get clean. Keep it anonymous. Too lazy to write more. 240. Okay. I thought I'd read his note.
Thank you very much. Anonymous.
Not much to it. Sean Lynch in Brighton, Illinois. 200. He'll be our last associate executive producer. And he says, thanks, gents. Or gents. If you
depending on how you pronounce GIF.
Yeah. Gens. I'm going to use that. A jobs karma with a side of goat scream is much appreciated.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Yeah. That livens things up. That concludes our list of associate executive producers and executive producers for 1107.
1107. Thank you all for being so goat friendly. It's nice. We are pro goat here on the show.
Greatest of all time.
Which means the Rams will win the Super Bowl. So thank you, our executive producers and associate executive producers. These are valuable credits, and we recognize them. They recognize anywhere credits are accepted, but we just celebrate them. Unlike Hollywood, wait for the Oscars. Wait for them. You tell me if any executive producers get an award or even mentioned. No, they're not mentioned. We understand the importance of it. Many of you do other things for our Value for Value network. The financing is what executive and associate executive producers do. What a lot of producers do. We'll be thanking more of them, $50 and above in our second segment. And remember, we do have another show coming up on Thursday. Just remember us at
Dvorak.org/NA.
I think you have a few things deconstructed which you can take out and propagate as a formula.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Shut up, slave.
Shut up, slave.
Before we go any further, I must stop and say that I'm very curious as to your response and perhaps even your coveted vote. Now that you know that Elizabeth Warren has proposed what you have been a proponent of for as long as I've known you.
Yes.
The wealth tax on rich Americans. This is something you've always been for.
Yes, but I've been for a generalized wealth tax with the elimination of income tax altogether, because the income tax prevents you from accumulating wealth. And if you don't accumulate wealth, in other words...
Okay, so that's the caveat, is you feel that as long as we abolish income tax and we just do a wealth tax, I never really remember you saying that, but I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. I'm not disputing it.
The argument is you can't accumulate wealth if you're being taxed for your income. And you want to encourage people to make as much money as they can possibly make income-wise. You don't want to discourage it. So you want to encourage that. And then when they start accumulating to the point where they have looks like a little too much money and they're not spending it on anything except even if they're spending it on yachts and houses, that's part of their wealth. But if they're putting it back into the system by hiring a lot of people and doing all these other things, that's not wealth. You're not accumulating wealth if you have
got it. Okay, well then I'm okay. So perhaps you should say a wealth only tax.
Well, I thought it was implied.
Maybe.
Well,
I don't
apparently
know.
not.
It's been a while since we've talked about it, so I
wealth
never
tax
thought
that
of it
she
that way.
wants to imply. At least here's what I think is positive. She brought it into the conversation.
Yes, that's positive.
It's a gap, but her wealth taxes gouge the rich.
Yours isn't.
Find everybody with over $50 million in assets and charge them 2% of all their assets. And I think that's unfair, but It's a start. It starts the discussion.
All right.
And people say, well, you can't do a wealth tax because it's impossible. People hide. No, they don't. You can't hide that much wealth. You can't hide your houses. You can't hide your yachts.
Right. So it's really on your net worth, really.
Yeah, your net worth.
Yeah,
your portfolio is, the IRS knows what it is. If you start cheating on where you're putting your money, hiding it in the Cayman Islands, they don't like this. So you have to your wealth consists of your property and your portfolio and your bank account.
Yes.
And that's it. I mean, and we've never had problems collecting property tax.
No.
It's a big building.
Yeah. Okay. No, good. Solved. I did come across, just staying with the 2020 election, and I believe this to be true. I've had a bit of an issue with Kamala Harris's. Well, now she's saying she was raised as African American, so she identifies as African American. I guess that's valid by today's standards. She's not African American. I don't believe she had the pure African American experience growing up in Ottawa. But if she says if she says she was raised as African American, even though her father is Jamaican, her mother is Indian, okay, I'm not going to argue it. However, it is my belief, in order to be eligible for president, your parents have to have been naturalized for at least 5 years prior to the child's birth. I could be wrong, but I think there's a regulation somewhere in there.
So you think she's ineligible?
I do. Her father arrived from Jamaica in 1961. Her mom from India in 1960. She was born in 1962. So I don't think she's eligible.
Well, she's not going to win anyway.
Oh, man, she's high on some people's list.
Yeah, I've heard this too, and it's just like when you think about it.
John, I'm just covering the bases here. I really despise talking about the election.
Put some stuff together because there's a lot of guys running.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten to the point where there's probably 50 Democrats that think they're going to run for president.
Yeah.
And the only
it's
smart
close
money,
to it. Yeah, it's close to it.
The only smart money seems to be Gavin Newsom, who's he's a wannabe president, but they asked him if he wants to run against Trump in 2020, and he said, hell no, because he's smart.
He's very
going to run in 2024.
Yeah, he's going to wait. No one wants to do this. Just the morons want to go up against Trump.
Well, you have a list of them, and it's a long list of morons.
They are. The elites were all, I guess, are they done now? Are they back from Davos, from their...
I think it's still going on, isn't it? Finished like tonight or tomorrow?
I thought last night was a big crescendo, like a big climax, because they had their key speaker. Now, remember this, I think there were 1,500 or 1,600 private jets that all convened on Davos to talk about climate change, amongst other things.
You'd think they could share a ride. They came to Davos to talk about climate change.
So this guest speaker, whose original speech was about 6 minutes long, but once I chopped out all the spaces, so it has been modified for brevity and for your entertainment enjoyment. This speaker did not come on a private jet. This speaker took a 37-hour train ride to provide the sound bites that everyone craves when you're in the elite circles, because all they're talking about is who controls the spending and what are we spending it on to grow. And I think the climate change is one that's kind of failing, and 5G is the other one. We'll get to that in a moment. This is Greta Thunberg. This is the 12-year-old kid. And she had some really interesting things to say. And I think it's a long clip, even though I chopped it down.
I have a follow-up clip to this then.
Good. It is long, but it's important to listen because this is being said in a stage that is intended to come across as alarmist. Of course, we're abusing this child to do this. So, we've seen this with the invasion in Iraq. We use children to talk about children being thrown out of incubators, all lies. This child is being salvaged. By the way, she has show business parents. Did you know that? Like her mom's an opera singer, her dad's an actor, granddad was a director. So it's a total show business family. And they prop this kid up and they let her terrorize her age group specifically?
I am here to say our house is on fire.
No kid's ever worried when you say the house is on fire. It's just they're all fine with it.
According to the IPCC, we are less than 12 years away from not being able to undo our mistakes. In that time, unprecedented changes in all aspects of society needs to have taken place, including a reduction of our CO2 emissions by at least 50%. And please note that those numbers do not include the aspect of equity, which is absolutely necessary to make the Paris Agreement work on a global scale, nor does it include tipping points or feedback loops like the extreme powerful methane gas being released from the thawing Arctic permafrost.
You notice how they slip in a couple new things here. Oh, it's the methane gas being released from the melting ice, and we're going to die so horribly.
At places like Davos, people like to tell success stories, but their financial success has come with an unthinkable price tag. And on climate change, we have to acknowledge that we have failed. All political movements in their present form have done so, and the media has failed to create broad public awareness. But Homo sapiens have not yet failed. Yes, we are failing, but there is still time to turn everything around. We can still fix this. We still have everything in our own hands. But unless we recognize the overall failures of our current systems, we most probably don't stand a chance. We are facing a disaster of unspoken sufferings for enormous amounts of people. And now is not the time for speaking politely or focusing on what we can or cannot say. Now is the time to speak clearly. Solving the climate crisis is the greatest and most complex challenge that Homo sapiens have ever faced.
I'm not quite sure why she keeps saying Homo sapiens. I mean, obviously we know that that's mankind, womankind, people on Earth. People.
Well, maybe it's because of the possibility of using the word man.
Oh, yes. Politically correct. Thank you.
The main solution, however, is so simple that even a small child can understand it. Oh. We have to stop the emissions of greenhouse gases. And either we do that or we don't. You say nothing in life is black or white, but that is a lie, a very dangerous lie. Either we prevent a 1.5 degree of warming or we don't. Either we avoid setting off that irreversible chain reaction beyond human control, or we don't. Either we choose to go on as a civilization, or we don't. That is as black or white as it gets. There are no grey areas when it comes to survival. Now we all have a choice. We can create a transformational action that will safeguard the future living conditions for humankind. Or we can continue with our business as usual and fail. That is up to you and me. Some say that we should not engage in activism. Instead, we should leave everything to our politicians and just vote for change instead. But what do we do when there is no political will? What do we do when the politics needed are nowhere in sight? Here in Davos, just like everywhere else, everyone is talking about money. It seems that money and growth are our only main concerns. And since the climate crisis is a crisis that has never once been treated as a crisis, people are simply not aware of the full consequences of our everyday life. People are not aware that there is such a thing as a carbon budget, and just how incredibly small that remaining carbon budget is.
Had you heard of this carbon budget?
That's a new term to me.
Yeah, I looked it up, and the carbon budget is the amount. It's kind of a reverse budget. The amount of carbon you're allowed to use. But here comes the next piece, which is very telling.
And that needs to change today. No other current challenge can match the importance of establishing a wide public awareness and understanding of our rapidly disappearing carbon budget that should and must become our new global currency and the very heart of future and present economics.
Ah, so carbon becomes the new currency. Thanks, kiddo.
We are now at a time in history where everyone with any insight of the climate crisis that threatens our civilization and the entire biosphere must speak out in clear language, no matter how uncomfortable and unprofitable that may be. We must change almost everything in our current societies. The bigger your carbon footprint is, the bigger your moral duty. The bigger your platform, the bigger your responsibility. Adults keep saying, we owe it to the young people to give them hope. But I don't want your hope. I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day. And then I want you to act. I want you to act as if you would in a crisis. I want you to act as if the house was on fire.
I gotta say, I think those Google guys have done pretty good on their new AI. It's quite convincing.
You know, I think that if you're sitting in the audience and you're one of the guys who came in on one of the 1,500 private jets,
yeah,
you're sitting there and you're listening to her and you're probably talking to your guy next door. You said, you know, they've done a great job with the kids. You know, we have them under complete control.
This is fantastic.
We can convince them of anything, any crazy notion.
Anything.
And in fact, it's gotten so carried away in Europe, and I expect to see this here, even though they try to do this here. But our kids aren't quite this dumb. But this is the Brussels big student strike over this.
Yes.
And in Brussels, Belgium, an estimated 35,000 children held a one-day school strike Thursday surrounding the European Parliament building, demanding urgent action on climate change. It was one of the largest student protests ever in the Belgian capital. Students said they're ready to skip classes once a week until their demands are met.
We think that if we skip every Thursday, so we don't go to school, that the big people in our country and in the world will say that it's a problem and that they will do something about it.
The students are following in the footsteps of now 16-year-old Greta Thunberg from Sweden, who is leading the school strike movement globally. She is now in Davos, Switzerland, addressing leaders at the World Economic Forum.
Oh, she's 16. I thought she was a little younger.
She's dressing leaders. That's what she said.
Yes, instead of addressing, he's dressing leaders.
She's addressing them. Hey, come here. Oh, those pants, they got to go.
She said to every one of them, all of your pants. You know, I was so hopeful. I even saw that nuclear energy was on the table, a couple of conversations in Davos. It's cropped up more and more as a true alternative. And right on cue, I'm waiting for our very own Sir Atomic Rod Adams to check in. He should be here because he's the guy that turned me on to this lying scumbag. This is a former nuclear regulator of the United States, JAXO. Do you remember this guy?
No.
Okay. So JAXO, he left the nuclear regulatory agency because he was a dick, mainly towards women. But it doesn't matter. He's back. No one has a problem with him anymore. He's written a book. It is, and you got to love the subtext of The Confessions of a Rogue Nuclear Regulator is the title of his book, which I think is intended to conjure up images of Confession of an Economic Hitman. And of course, nuclear is the stupidest thing we could do. Oh my God. Whoa, no!
Today, 98 reactors at 59 commercial nuclear sites in the U.S. provide power across the country using a technology heralded by proponents as a savior from climate change and the key to solving the world's growing energy needs. But our next guest says that nuclear power is more hazardous than it is worth, and warns that its continued use will lead to catastrophe in this country or somewhere else in the world. Former chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Gregory Yatsko, joins us now. He's the author of a new memoir entitled Confessions of a Rogue Nuclear Regulator. And thank you very much for being on the show. Wondering what the exact confessions are, especially given your tenure as NRC commissioner ended in a little bit of controversy.
A little
bit. Tell me first why you wrote the book.
Well, I wanted people to really understand how this industry was regulated and how it works, because this is a technology that's hazardous. It's a technology that at any moment really could lead to the kind of catastrophic accident we saw at Fukushima. So I thought people should understand that. And, you know, as you said, people are talking about nuclear power as the savior to climate change. And that worries me more than the risk of a nuclear power plant accident, because I don't think it can rise to that.
Wait a minute. What did he just say? He said something weird there. Hold on.
You know, as you said, people are talking about nuclear power as the savior to climate change, and that worries me more than the risk of a nuclear power plant accident, because I don't think it can rise to that challenge.
So, more worrying to him than a meltdown of a reactor or something else like that is actually people using nuclear to combat climate change.
Worse than that, if you really deconstruct what he said, just talking about it.
You're right. Is worse
than a meltdown.
Yeah. I got a couple more short clips from this guy from this interview. He's using Fukushima. He doesn't even go back to Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island. It's own Fukushima. And, he's conflating a lot of different things. It was an earthquake right off the coast. It was a tsunami. The tsunami is what triggered the meltdown. And the tsunami killed the people. The tsunami made everybody move away, but okay.
Yeah, well, I started in Washington as a physicist, and so I looked at every issue based on the facts and made hypotheses and revised those hypotheses as I learned new facts. And the biggest fact that changed my mind was this accident in Fukushima. I saw 100,000 people evacuated from their homes, many of them permanently evacuated. And, that's the kind of thing you should never see from a source that generates electricity.
Oh, let's see. Did we ever had any problems with oil? Has that ever been bad for the environment or for people? Let me think.
But, he would also argue oil's bad. We're talking about a climate change guy who's all in on solar. He doesn't say this, but this is the mentality.
Oh, yeah.
Oil bad, nuke bad, solar good,
yes.
Wind good.
Yeah, you got it.
And moreover, we were promised and the industry pledged that these kinds of accidents were in the past. And here we had one in front of us, which I simply couldn't ignore anymore. And I began to realize then that this is a technology that simply was too hazardous to really be a future technology.
Oh, yeah. So just stop all developments. It could never be any good. It's no good. It ruined Japan.
Yeah, so there's really the area around the plant. There's large areas of the plant that are still uninhabitable. Most of those people who were evacuated can't return to their homes or won't return to their homes. So lives have been disrupted in a way that we think about more with wars than with energy generation. And you have a lot of radioactive water that's being stored at the site that people really don't know what to do with. So it'll be decades before this really gets.
And just how likely could something like this happen in the United States?
It's so hard to predict. The plants kind of operate always on this precipice of normal operation on one side and catastrophic failure on the other. But what we know is the accidents will happen. So it's just a question of when and where. And it's hard to predict, which is why the industry often touts that everything's fine.
So his solution to... Sorry. Go ahead.
It's because it rarely happens. There's 3 major incidents.
Yeah, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, Fukushima.
Yeah, and how many years has it been? I mean, nuclear power probably began in earnest, at least the discussions in the late 50s.
I mean, Mika could have brought up, I don't know, France. Hey, France seems to be doing pretty well.
And they're trying to shut those down.
Yeah.
That's Macron, that guy.
Well, our buddy here has some solutions. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't solar energy subsidized by the government?
A lot. Yeah, I think most of it is.
Elon Musk's cars were certainly subsidized by the government. So there's all kinds of electrical stuff that's subsidized.
Yes, it's all the economics. Well, you did a whole takedown of wind power's subsidies and the used equipment and all the rest of it.
Well, listen to his last bit here.
So for people who are...
so as a part of Morning Joe, I guess they bring in the BBC USA woman, Katie or Kathy, whatever her name is. I don't know why she's there, but she gets to ask a question.
So for people who are trying to find a counter to fossil fuels in the fight against global warming, having nuclear power written off like this is kind of depressing, because this was the hope, right? That nuclear power could be made safer and it could be the counter in our effort to keep global temperatures from going up. If you weigh the risks of higher global temperatures because of fossil fuel increased usage and nuclear power, you still come down firmly in the favor of non-nuclear power.
So she's got a good point here. Except for the accidents. Even with that, I mean, is this not a good idea to try this? No.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a false choice because the realities are right now in the marketplace, cleaner sun, wind, geothermal, these technologies are actually in some cases cheaper than nuclear, and they're getting cheaper much, much faster.
Oh, really?
So I actually think the future is pretty hopeful, but what we need to do is really let the markets decide and kind of get out of the way of subsidizing reactors to try and keep them around, because the reason people are doing that is to keep the reactors around. They're not really doing it to deal with climate change, because if you want to deal with climate change, you just have to let the market decide, and then you need to do things with gas to maybe make gas a little bit more expensive. And if you do that, the things that are going to fill in is really wind, sun, and geothermal. It's not nuclear, and that's what we're seeing in the market here in the U.S. and throughout the rest of the world.
Except it's not true. God, I hate this guy. He's such a dick. We've done a lot. I gotta do. And since he's back on the scene, I'm gonna follow him, because he was expelled, for basically a Me Too moment. It wasn't long after maybe it was just before the show started. I'm trying to think. No, it was 2012 when he announced his resignation. But it was because, people had complained. He was a dick, especially female subordinates. One woman told me she felt the chairman was actually irritated with someone else, but took it out on her. I mean, this guy would have been excoriated. And Mika Brzezinski just says, oh, yeah, it just was a little bit of controversy. Oh, no problem. All paid, all big. It's a big, this is your big oil money right here. That's your big oil money.
That could be. There's a possibility that exists that oil's behind this guy.
You think?
Well, I mean, there has to be some explanation. He doesn't seem like a guy, especially if he's a masher or whatever he was.
Masher.
That he'd be, a kind of a crunchy guy. It doesn't seem too logical.
I got another. You do something, and I got another presentation.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I got the no checks report. I want to play these clips, and I want to make a commentary.
Oh, checks? What checks? Checks? Are we getting checks? What checks?
No, we'll listen to some of these checks reports.
All right, what checks?
Let's start with. Let's do the longest one. Let's do no checks report. FBI ATC.
Kathy Kalani is an IRS worker in Florida.
And I want to believe, and I pray that the politicians in Washington will do this economy and everybody right by doing the right thing.
Hours before the president's announcement, the shutdown was escalating.
Right under Bravo.
In the Northeast today, air traffic reduced to a trickle.
I wouldn't be surprised if it takes, another 20 to 30 minutes before we become airborne.
After a number of air traffic controllers called in sick.
When they probably saw the second zero paycheck, that probably put so much stress on them, and they're not fit for duty if they are overstressed.
New York's LaGuardia Airport brought to a standstill.
I'm totally sympathetic to them because you can't operate a business that way.
Meanwhile, pressure was also building at the FBI.
It takes a lot to get me angry, but I'm about as angry as I've been in a long, long time.
FBI Director Chris Wray today told 32,000 employees it was unfair and short-sighted to make them work without pay. An IRS backlash has also been building. 14,000 workers called in sick this week after being called back to work without pay. Among them, Lori Wilcox in Utah, who fears she'll be furloughed again next month.
We're terrified that we're going to lose our house, lose our cars.
This was a pretty slick move, and I think this is why Trump, quote unquote, caved. What I understand that from the union, the air traffic controllers union, and perhaps more of certainly air traffic controllers, that something like a quarter of them, or 20 to 25%, are working, but they're completely eligible for to take their pension and to retire. And that I think there was some noise like, we're going to have 20% walk off the job and just take their pension and never come back.
Yeah, that's a possibility, but that's kind of not going to be my point. I want to play another one of these clips. This is the no checks report, NBC belt buckles.
Okay.
In Los Angeles, furloughed FAA Inspector Curtis Calabrese is expecting back pay, but says the political tug of war should have never happened in the first place.
This all began over debate for a wall. Right. Has it been worth it? To weigh that against the safety of the American people that are flying every day, is that worth it? Absolutely not.
In Washington, D.C., some agree.
I don't think it was worth it. What did it accomplish? Nothing.
Back in Colorado, single mom Devin Lentz lost her job at the belt buckle shop.
I don't see myself going back to work before the end of February until something is truly signed and done.
Families caught where politics turns personal. Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
Let's go to this one. I got no checks. I get the FBI no checks report. NBC. This is Shorty.
Federal workers like Carla Davis, a grant processor at Housing and Urban Development, need a little more help waiting on back pay.
I'm glad it's over, but I still don't feel like safe. Like 3 weeks is not a long time.
And then let's go to No Checks Report, Random Democracy Now! With Coast Guard kicker.
This comes as some 800,000 federal workers who've been furloughed or forced to work without pay for over a month will miss a second paycheck today. Federal workers are increasingly turning to food pantries as they struggle to pay for housing, food, and other basic needs. Among them, more than 40,000 active duty members of the U.S. Coast Guard. This is Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Carl Schultz.
I find it unacceptable that Coast Guard men and women have to rely on food pantries and donations to get through day-to-day life as service members.
Okay.
Let's just stop here. I got a million of them. But let's listen to these and analyze these things. We got guys in the Coast Guard, guys in the FBI, ATC, everybody, and they're going to miss a second check. And the one woman, as you heard, says, we're going to lose our house. We're going to lose our cars.
Yeah, it's total bullshit.
And is it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, it is. And I think I have some proof.
Well, it may or may not be. But the message they're sending is that this economy is so weak and so flaky that you can't miss one or two, let's say two paychecks without losing your house, your car, and everything in between.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
If that's the case, you can prove it's not the case, and that would be fine because I don't believe it is either. You can prove that's the case, but if that is the case, that these people are so bent out of shape about this over the one or two lost paychecks, which tells me that too many people, and I'm assuming that there's some truth to this, too many people that are making good money working for the government. It's not like a lousy paying job. Working for the government, the federal government in particular, they're living paycheck to paycheck. What happens if we have an actual economic collapse?
We're all going to die.
I would think so. If you're working for the federal government and you've been working there for, let's assume, for some time, that you have cars and you have a house, that doesn't mean you started yesterday, and you can lose all these things overnight because of a missed paycheck.
No.
This is not a good signal.
That's also not true. It's in this case, I believe if our economy tanked and people missed paychecks, yes, I think there's a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck because they're on the credit bandwagon and are overextended and have been this way for decades. And this is what the system is. Watch TV. I got to buy this stuff that I can't afford, buy it with money I don't have, go back to my job, repeat cycle. Yeah, I think that's real. Yes, I do.
Well, this is not a good signal.
It's not.
And the worst, now let me give you another worst aspect.
But can I whenever you're ready, I want to prove that it's bullshit. These reports are bullshit. That's what I'd like to
okay, let me finish this then.
Good.
Democracy Now! Had a bunch of clips from Wilbur Ross.
Yes, that's exactly where I want to go.
Well, Ross comes on, and of course, she takes it from the perspective of, why listen to this guy? He's worth $700 million. What does he know about somebody getting a paycheck? So I want to play the two clips. This is Democracy Now! Versus the bridge loan idea that he has.
Meanwhile, President Trump's Commerce Secretary, multi-millionaire investor Wilbur Ross, said Thursday federal workers should simply take out bridge loans until they get paid. Ross was being questioned by CNBC anchor Andrew Ross Sorkin.
There are reports that there are some federal workers who are going to homeless shelters to get food.
Well, I know they are, and I don't really quite understand why, because, as I mentioned before, the obligations that they would undertake, say a borrowing from a bank or a credit union, are in effect federally guaranteed.
I can't wait to start. I'm waiting for you.
So that's the start. And then she goes to number two. And instead of saying, I'll tell you what really bothers me, and then you can play your clips.
All right.
Let's play the second part where all she does is just give Wilbur Ross crap for being a rich guy.
So the 30 days of pay that some people will be out there's no real reason why they shouldn't be able to get a loan against it.
Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, whose net worth is estimated around $700 million, also diminished the financial hardship faced by unpaid federal workers.
800,000 workers, if they never got their pay, which is not the case, they will eventually get it. But if they never got it, you're talking about 0.33% on our GDP. So it's not like it's a gigantic number overall.
All right.
Now, she mocks him for being rich, and she goes on and she thinks this is crazy. Now, instead of doing that, if Ross is right and you can just get a guaranteed bridge loan, which I guess a lot of people don't know what a bridge loan is, and they probably don't go to a bank, or I have no idea what the problem is here. But instead of educating the public, here, if you've lost your job, let us explain to you how you can go to your bank and get this guaranteed, according to Ross, guaranteed federal bridge loan to keep you afloat, instead of coming on NBC or Democracy Now! Or any of these other stations and moaning and groaning like that one woman did about she's going to lose her house and they're going to lose their cars and they got nothing they can do.
John?
And instead of saying, well, that's not true, you can do this and we'll show you how. No, they just ridicule it because it's something to do with Trump.
Yes.
I find that the whole thing to be incredibly it's not useful.
And you will really despise it when I unveil the rest. Democracy Now! Did exactly what Don Lemon does on CNN. I'll just play a little bit. He had a clip about the same thing, 800,000. Oh, he doesn't give a shit about these people, and here he is about the loans. Listen.
There are reports that there are some federal workers who are going to homeless shelters to get food.
Let me fast forward.
Well, I know they are, and
we already heard this part. Here we go.
They shouldn't be able to get a loan against it.
That is the most elite, out-of-touch thing that I have ever heard in my life, in all my years, ever on this earth. That is the most insulting thing that I've ever heard. The most elitist, however you want to put it, thing that I've ever heard. I could not believe it. I had to go back and I said, I got to find this on the internet. Is this true?
On the internet?
Hey, you folks who aren't getting paid, just go take out a loan. Take out a loan. Here's what he's saying, okay? Follow along with me. Take out a loan for the money that you've earned, the money that we owe you, because we really have no idea when you're going to get paid, even though a lot of you are still on the job. So yeah, take out a loan. Pay interest just to get the money that we owe you. And the Commerce Secretary may know where you can get a loan because his department's Federal Credit Union is offering emergency loans at almost 9% interest. 9%. It's according to the Washington Post.
Okay. So it's generally the same story. What an elitist rich prick. Last night, Saturday, I didn't clip it because without the visual doesn't work, but Kate McKinnon, whatever her name is, now she's taken her character and she did Wilbur Ross very well as a creepy elitist a-hole, which he does come across, but it's disingenuous from Amy and from Don and everybody because it's only a part of what he said. You might be surprised he said a little bit more, and I did some checking on it. Wilbur Ross was on CNBC. It's a business news network. It's not the fast-paced CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Democracy Now!, War and Peace Report, where everybody's all ready-made for television and gets their point out in 10 seconds. Wilbur Ross said something very important as a part of this suggestion.
Mr. Secretary, many of these workers clearly need the paycheck.
I'm going to fast forward a bit because we've heard this 3 times now. Here we go.
Then the risk.
Here we go.
Well, first of all, the banks and the credit union should be making credit available to them. When you think about it, these are basically government-guaranteed loans because the government has committed these folks will get their back pay once this whole thing gets settled down. So there really is not a good excuse why there really should be a liquidity crisis. Now, true, the people might have to pay a little bit of interest. But the idea that it's paycheck or zero is not a really valid idea. There's no reason why some institution wouldn't be willing to lend. And indeed, we've heard tales of some of the government.
So it should be put on the private sector? The private sector needs to step up where the public sector can't?
No, what I'm saying is there have been ads run by a number of the public sector credit unions, which are member organizations of the people who work in the departments. Those have announced very, very low interest rate loans to bridge people over the gap.
Oh, wait a minute. I guess Don and Amy didn't hear that part. And I went and looked. And if you look for local news reports all across America, this is what you heard.
The phrase living paycheck to paycheck is a stark reality for many Americans, as thousands of Ohioans are figuring out how to pay their bills while their next payday is uncertain.
This is from January 3rd.
Here in the Miami Valley, Dayer Credit Union is offering assistance of their own to these impacted workers.
Preferably, our members would have direct deposit coming in here to the credit union. Very easy for us to look and see what that dollar amount is, and then we can match a loan amount to that direct deposit, 0% interest for 30 days.
If direct deposit is not available, a current pay stub may be required to get the loan. After 30 days, prevailing interest could begin to kick in, but Theobald says they will look at the program if that becomes an issue. Right now, he says it is mostly Department of Transportation employees seeking assistance, but anticipates many more if the partial government shutdown.
Now, this is their own credit union called Dayer. Let's go to San Diego. Let's just see if there was any issues there with credit unions.
While Washington stalemates,
our phones have been ringing off the hook.
Things are busy for Cabrillo Credit Union.
People are scared.
But it's something they've dealt with before.
We've been through multiple furloughs, multiple government shutdowns over the years.
The San Diego-founded business is loaning government employees their paycheck value with no interest until the shutdown is over.
Federal employees, they weren't expecting this.
I mean, I can play 18 of these clips. Yeah. All local. The credit unions, local news, the chicken shit news subverted this, obfuscated, and they just found either idiots or people who are willing participants to cry, whereas every single one of these credit unions, it's not a familiar concept in the rest of the world, but go look at what a credit union does. They're also part of these organizations themselves.
Yeah, it's very hard to work within any government operation. I can say that as someone who knows. I was a member of the San Francisco City Workers Credit Union. Because if you're a government worker, there's a credit union attached to what you do. If you're in the armed forces, there's a credit union attached to what you do. And these credit unions do what these clips are telling. This is
bullshit. I'm really mad about this because Amy and everyone, they did not play everything the guy said.
Besides that, it was the Don Lemon one that was the eye-opener. First, he mocked the whole idea of going to the bank, and I don't even care whether he played the whole thing or not. You can go to the bank and get bridge loans. It's not that big of a deal. And then he emphasized the Washington Post bull crap article about, oh, yeah, but it's 9%.
Thank you.
Were they going to payday loans? What kind of a loan are we talking about here? So that was a bull crap report. So these are blatant lies by the big boys.
Yeah, and done on purpose. Purposefully. I mean, okay, I totally believe Don Lemon just looked at the clip, just the one little clip that everyone was passing around on social media. And obviously, democracy now is no better. Just that clip, just make fun of the asshole old guy. NBC, Saturday Night Live, make him look like he's like he's death himself. Guy definitely does not have a media presence that is very helpful to what is going on here. But it's disingenuous and really just a lie to say that people couldn't get any money at all.
My car, I'm going to lose my house.
Yes, bullshit.
That was on NBC.
Yep.
NBC.
You say that like it means something anymore.
Well, it did. They have more reach than we do.
And I commend every single credit union. I love credit unions.
Hey, banks can do this too.
No, banks.
I love credit unions. I think credit unions are better than banks. I'm not going to argue that point.
Yeah.
But this can be done at a bank level if you have a good relationship with a bank. But the way Don Lemon sees it, this is an elitist thing.
Yeah.
You're too stupid to go to a bank. Well, how did you get your car? Well, you got your car probably from GMAC. Maybe you did it at the dealers. You didn't go to a bank.
John, I've the UFCU, the University Federal Credit Union. I'm like, I ran the Airstream through there, so I don't really do that much business with them anymore. But why don't I go take a look and see? And yeah, lo and behold, they said it right there. We can offer you 0%, right in the bill or the statement,
paperwork,
the statement. We can offer you 0% loan if you're furloughed or not getting a check due to the shutdown. Contact us. We'll be happy to help you. So it is just a lie. And it doesn't matter because that's just what we'll always think forever. That will be the truth from now on out. And it's too bad that this little podcast doesn't have enough reach to let the world know how really disgusting this reporting was across the board, right down to Washington Post.
Yeah. Well, none of it unexpected, since it seems to be just all Trump hate.
Yes.
And they're not giving the public actual information that's valuable.
And your point is very valid, because I know that's what your point was. It's like, instead of doing this whole what an asshole, what an elitist, what a dick, do a little story, which local news was all over. We're talking 3 weeks ago. They were already doing this. This has been, and you can just look it up. Go to YouTube, and local report after local report with credit unions, with their local guys say, hey, we're going to help everybody out. Not a problem.
So that's that. Okay, well, we're both listening.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh, yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
All right. Well, we do have a few people to thank for show 11-7, 7-11.
11-07.
Jonathan Halper in Charlotte, North Carolina is at the top of the list. And the guys at the top of the list, I always read their note. Thanks for the continued deconstruction. So $199.99 would be your best bet if you want to get this note read. To celebrate the frigid weather slamming the folks north of me, I'd like a shut up already. It's science. We will do that at the end. But the point is that I think donations kind of are flaky because of this cold weather. It's not helping anybody.
You think people are just cocooning and not doing anything?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Loss of power loss. This is bad. It hurts business. I mean, Horowitz and I talk about it all the time. This first quarter of the year, over the last few years, this hasn't been ever since global warming began. And by the way, when I played that clip of the students in Brussels making the big protests, which we played a few seconds ago about global, bitching and moaning about climate change, they were all bundled up.
Yeah. It's very cold.
It's freezing there.
Very cold in Europe right now.
Yeah.
It's the polar vortex.
Global warming is going to kill us all. It's going to kill us all. It's going to kill us all. All right.
Yeah. Anonymous.
13745. I like to remain anonymous. Okay.
Wait a minute. Anonymous, with this donation of $137.45, brings my total monetary contributions to the best podcast in the universe to $1,000. I would like the title of Dame J of the Angry Clouds. And, another pilot. Dame J of the Angry Clouds, and requests cinnamon rolls and VFR for the ceremony. VFR is visual flight rules. Interesting. Okay, I'm putting cinnamon rolls and VFR on the list as we speak. Interesting choice. I like it. Thank you.
Yeah. Rogue Black Knight of the Baron of the Palouse, 135.79. Alan Hayes in Windsor, Berkshire, UK, 10101. Gerald Preston, $100. Doug Andrews in Sykesville, Maryland, 85. He says our hard work is appreciated by many. Anonymous, 777.77. Jobs Karma. I will put that at the end for you. William Durkin, 6969. Damn it.
What?
A mosquito got in the house.
Oh, man, it sounded like, something like seriously.
And it was like flying right there, and I could have nailed him, and I'm looking at my hands. I missed him. I hate mosquitoes. And this one was like looking for food, you could tell. Because can barely fly.
You're telling me there's nothing better in the house than you? Aren't the kids there?
I think they went to the dog show.
Oh, the dog show. Okay.
William Durkin, 69.69. Michael Robinson, 54.33 in Australia. Joe Besessi, 50.38. And then Sir Mike of the Ewing KD2 FDX 73s, 505.
He's got a birthday for his daughter Leanne, 73s from Kilo 5 Alpha Charlie Charlie.
And then we have Scott Nelson in Melbourne, Florida. And the following people are $50 donors, name and location, if I have the location, which I don't seem to have too many. Michael Worley, he's in Australia.
It says,
Joseph
Barnes.
Wait.
It's thanks, boys. Aussie dollarettes. Can my boss Alex get a douchebag? I think we can do that.
Douchebag. Douchebag to Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Worley, that was the douchebag. Joseph Barnes, Joe Winky.
Hold on.
California.
Joseph Barnes wants a de-douching.
All right.
He says, I've been called a douchebag enough in social circles out here in Oakland, so this is kind of important.
You've been de-douched.
And I think Joe Winky from Santa Rosa, isn't he our California CBD guy? Yeah.
Oh, he's Sir Joe then. Sorry.
Yeah, I forgot what. I forgot his company
He keeps
name.
moving around.
Well, he sent us the CBD cream.
The cream.
Yeah, the stuff that you can put everywhere, but not on your bits because it could be rather prickly.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
You don't want prickly bits.
No, prickly.
Jose
No.
Ferreira, Newbury, Berkshire, UK. Christopher Charabarak, I think. Charabarak, 50. He's got a note.
Harabarak. It's Harabarak.
Christopher Flynn in Oakdale, Connecticut. Mario Bajarano, I think.
It's Texas, so Bajarano.
It's something. Yes. In Brownsville, Texas. Louis Pastor in Miami, Florida, who I believe is a sir. Jeffrey Zellen in Oakland, Michigan. Robert Makowski in Rhinebeck, New York. Sir Peter Totes in Sugar Land, Texas. Darren Denikowitz, I'm thinking. He's in Dubai. Hey, we need some reports from Dubai. And last but not least, Dame Susan Johnson in Hillsboro, Oregon. I want to thank all these folks for helping us on show 1107.
Yes, and we'll do we got some karma, some job karma needed. Do we have an F cancer? Did I see that scroll by?
I did not.
Okay.
See that, but.
And new human resource karma. That's for Christopher Flint. Well, fantastic. And we want to thank everybody for supporting the show. If someone said that we need to change our, there's some active stuff on the Dvorak.org/NA page, which is really old. Is that possible?
There's
promotions
an old
from
link.
Oh, okay. It's a link
on the thank you page when you give a donation.
Ah, yes.
And if you click on it, it's for the old noagendastickers.com.
No. It was something else. It was about like the.
If you click on this, you get a porn site. So
I
want to warn everybody: do not click on No Agenda stickers.
No, that wasn't the problem.
No.
I think it was some of the other programs we have available.
Yeah, this is a possibility because PayPal. They've done this to me a couple of times. It happens every few years. I'll go look at at the links and see if they're still good. But
right.
PayPal will change. We don't. we want to change. We have a different model now for the way we have the clickables that takes you to the donation page. We don't like it. We like this new way we doing it. They got some new guy in there. It changed everything.
Oh, okay.
So it invalidated a bunch of really old that worked fine. Old links. So I'll go check them. I'll check them.
Yeah, please do. And there has been a change. One of our producers, he kind of reminded me how we need to change this. We have the mothership boarding pass for $33.33 monthly subscription. And it's always been a big pain in the ass.
No, it's the podcast license.
I'm sorry, you're right. The podcast license. That's what it is. $33.33 podcast license. It's been a real pain in the ass to coordinate setting up the domain names. And it looks like crap and it breaks. And so this producer, he's like, I want to give this for I don't know if this is for his wife or his daughter. He said, this is misleading. It says it'd be signed by Adam Curry. And how come it's not up already? And I'm like, you're right. This is completely misleading. Would you please create for me a beautiful design podcast license that I can then print with the person's name and sign it and send it off? It's much less hassle than anything else.
Well, okay.
I think that's what we should do.
Well, you can always buy the certificate papers.
Yeah, but I wanted the producers to do it because if we have big talk here, you're like, oh, yeah, well,
we'll never do it.
Exactly. So I told him, I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm changing this. Hook us up so I can do this and do it properly. And we'll even go back and give everybody who has one, we'll give them an official certificate. Yeah, we need the certificate paper. It needs to be printed, and then what do you do? Calligraphy for the name?
A good font, a good calligraphy font.
I bet you Tina.
No one's going to do calligraphy. Nobody does calligraphy anymore. You have to use a font.
Tina has taken some classes.
She doesn't want to do a bunch of licenses when a font will work. I mean, we use font for the knighthood thing, and nobody bitches about that.
Okay. Well, then in that case, just have Eric do it all. Oh, no, we have
Eric's
to sign
not going to do it. He's going to charge a fortune.
You're right. We'll take care of it. Anyway, that was just a little point of order. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We're just trying to keep the value going always. And please remember us for our next show, and that will be on Thursday. And I'm sure there'll be more things that happen that we will be reporting on and pulling apart and deconstructing for you because, as you just heard, a lot of it is disingenuous lies.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
It's a birthday on No Agenda.
And here we go for today. What are we at? The 27th of January, 2019. Patrick W. says happy birthday to his son, Patrick Wolf. He celebrates on the 29th. Rob Sanderson, February 23rd. We're looking at you now, Rob. And Sir Mike Ewing says happy birthday to his daughter, Leanne Kleckner. She turns 17 tomorrow. And we say happy birthday from all your buddies here at the best podcast in the universe. There we go. 1, 2. We have 3 nights. No, we have 2 nights. Oh, nice balance. 2 nights, 2 dames. This is perfect. Oh. Blades first.
I got it.
All right, great. There we go. Now we're good. Micah, pop up. Jose Ferreira, Laura Wilson, and Cascades Anonymous. All of you need to be up here. Wait, not Cascades Anonymous. Anonymous. Little line issue. Thank you for your support of the No Agenda Show in the amount of $1,000 or more. I'm very proud to pronounceicate thee with the following titles. Sir Codes a Lot of the Appalachian Trail, Sir Joe of the Canals, Dame Laura of the Snowy Cascades, and Dame Jay of the Angry Clouds. For you, we have Hookers and Blow, Rent Boys and Chardonnay, Cinnamon Rolls and VFR, Steel Reserve and Black Milds, Beer and Blunts, Cowgirls and Coffee Barn, Sparkling Cider and Escorts, Geishas and Sake, Bong Hits and Bourbon, and Mutton and Mead all lined up here for you at the No Agenda Roundtable of the Knights and Dames. Look at the size of the table and how many Knights and Dames we have there. It's fantastic. They're so proud of what you've done with this show. And our new Knights and Dames go to noagendanation.com/rings, and Eric the Shill will get the right rings off to you. Have they come in yet, the new order? I know he had them on order.
No, they've been out. No, they haven't come in yet. I mean, it takes forever to get these turned around. It's getting slower.
Yeah.
Because of China, China. China. They'll come in. They'll be in within the next week or two.
Yes. Let me see. I had a couple things that were kind of interesting. Oh, yeah. You want the 5G report now? Are you ready for the 5G report?
Sure.
Okay. Well, first of all, we got I don't know if you saw this email. I forget which producer sent this. But it turns out PC Magazine is now, it's whenever they have a news story, they tweet it out, and the tweet is PC Magazine and Qualcomm. You see, they're now the main sponsor.
Yeah.
So if you look at your email, you see PC Mag with Qualcomm sponsored. Here's a look at the 4 biggest changes to come for smartphones and mobile devices. 5G, it's coming in 2019, and it's gonna change your life. Just another data point in why
that same article appeared in Mashable, which they also own now.
Right. Presented by Qualcomm, who are the company when it comes to 5G radios.
5G company.
That is the company.
That could be the downfall of Qualcomm.
Well, I got to tell you, we've been talking about this. You think it may not happen. I think we're too late. I got a note from one of our producers in Texas who's in the biz, so to say. And all this went down in 2017. Austin already has 5G transmitters. Now it's the AT&T version, whatever the heck that means. There's 500 in Dallas, 300 in Houston. It's already done. It's over. It's already
in Texas.
It's
Just
underway
around here.
Okay, you got other problems in Berkeley. Here is the report from 2017, just before the vote was made, and really the only thing that Austin was pushing back on is how much money they would get per cell installed. That's the only thing. And when you hear, and we're in session here, the legislature. And the whole town is filled with money. People just walking around, just doling out cash left and right. So this is a report from 2017, so you kind of get a background as to how long this has been playing.
The future of wireless technology, especially for 5G, will be ran through little cell towers across cities known as nodes. There aren't any up and running in Austin just yet, but several hundred are expected after city officials came to an agreement with major telecommunications companies in October. That agreement has Austin getting $1,500 per node per year. That could change.
The legislature is weighing in.
That's Adler, our fake mayor.
With considerable weight.
Mayor Adler is worried about a bill scheduled for a vote Wednesday that could cap the fee at $250 for each device every year, losing big money for the city. Austin would also lose some control about where these devices are placed on public land.
Now the legislature is stepping in and taking what is highly coveted public space and turning it into cheap utility corridors.
So far, the bill has nearly unanimous support at the Capitol.
That's to give our customers an effortless wireless customer experience.
AT&T is a major supporter of the bill and says it's necessary to bring tomorrow's technology to Texas quickly.
Things like 4K video, the Internet of Things, connected cars, smart cities, they all start with 5G.
It's a fight over money and who calls the shots for 5G coming to cities in Texas.
So that was 2017. The bill passed, of course.
Hold on a second.
What?
When I was listening to that, it sounded like they were going to get $1,500 per node.
Yeah.
And then it went down to $250, and that's what passed?
No, that's not what passed. It passed at $750.
I thought it was $1,500.
No, that's what they wanted. The lobbyists wouldn't pay. Look, the lobbyists paid everyone off to move it down.
Oh, that's what you do.
Yeah, that's how you. So it wasn't about, is it safe? Should we have it? Is it effective? Is it good for us? No, just how much money is the city going to get? That was the only question. The 20,000 satellites to date. Here, these are the 5G satellites. Let me just tell you what's already been deployed. SpaceX has deployed half of their 12,000 satellite allotment. OneWeb is looking at 4,560. Boeing is just under 3,000. And Spire Global, I don't know who that is, they're looking at 972. 5G, 300, they're saying 300 watts. I find that hard to believe that that's what they're going to be pumping from outer space. I don't know what power they're going to use for that, but I don't know. We went to the moon. Tom Wheeler, who was then FCC chairman in 2016, did a speech, which I cannot find the original from, sadly, because what he says, now this is 3 years ago, what he says in this speech at the National Press Club, which is why I find it weird I can't find the original, and it has some music mixed in it, which pisses me off. But it's pretty much unedited as far as I can tell. But even the things he's saying are clear enough. This is what he was touting to the press club in 2016. That's the people in D.C. who are supposed to report on these things.
The big game changer is that 5G will use much higher frequency bands than previously thought viable for mobile broadband and other applications. Such millimeter wave signals have physical properties that are both a limitation and a strength. They tend to travel best in narrow and straight lines, and they do not go through physical objects as well. But brilliant engineers have developed new antennas that can aim and amplify signals. Now, to make this work, the 5G build-out is going to be very infrastructure intensive, requiring massive deployment of small cells. I'm confident that the actions will lead to a cornucopia of unanticipated, innovative uses and will generate tens of billions of dollars in economic activity. And that's damn important, because it means that U.S. companies will be the first out of the gate. And that is why 5G is a national priority. And stay out of the way of technological development. Unlike some countries, we do not believe that we should spend the next couple of years studying what 5G should be, or how it should operate,
or if it's safe.
The future has a way of inventing itself. Turning innovators loose is far preferable to expecting committees and regulators to define the future. We won't wait for the standards.
Okay.
We're already seeing the industry gearing
wait for the standards.
Fuck the standards.
up to seize this opportunity. Verizon and AT&T tell us they'll begin deploying 5G trials in 2017. And the first commercial deployments they're talking about are expected in 2020. And we're not done. As part of our July 14 action, we also plan to ask for comments on opening up other high-frequency bands. Many of the high-frequency bands that we will make available for 5G currently have some satellite users, as well as some Defense Department applications, or at least the possibility of future satellite and defense users. This means sharing will be required between satellite and terrestrial wireless, an issue that is especially relevant in the 28 gigahertz band. But if anyone tells you that they know the details of what 5G is going to become, run the other way. If something can be connected, it will be connected. Hundreds of billions of microchips connected in products from pill bottles to plant waterers. We must reject the notion that the 5G future will be the sole provenance of urban areas. The 5G revolution will touch all corners of our country. A lot more antenna siting decisions by local governments, and tightened our shot clock for siting application reviews. America's local governments will play an important role in determining how we fulfill this national priority. You can be sure of only one thing. The biggest Internet of Things application has yet to be imagined.
That was the FCC chairman at the time. I think his words are pretty clear. And all these municipalities, all they were thinking about is, can I get the 1,500 instead of the 250? They weren't thinking about anything else. And I had forgotten about the capability of RFID, to connect at short distance to these 5G spots, which will be everywhere. And it truly becomes a kind of cool spy grid. It's quite mind-boggling. In that aspect, I think he's right. But to say that this is not happening, or that some reports of your home value going down or health, I think it's unstoppable. That video you and I watched over the weekend, this is what it is. They're banking the future on this of the money expansion, capitalist system of the liberal bankers is this. That's what they put all climate change kind of doesn't work. Stupid Trump. But even Trump is dumb enough to fall for this.
Well, that I will say, yes. Well, anybody, generally speaking, that generation is going to be too dumb to realize the issues with this technology. But okay, we'll see. I have high hopes that there'll be enough action, and I'm seeing a lot more action on this, and I've seen on a lot of different things. Squeaky wheels. And I think a lot of it's going to come from California.
Yeah, probably.
Since Texas apparently just knuckles under to any, 2-bit. Some guy comes in. Hey, this guy came in and he offered me 10 cents to do this. I'll take it. It's better than no 10 cents.
Wow. That was really quite awesome of you to do there in California. Now I'm hoping for an earthquake so y'all can die.
Well, you can wish for all you want, but I got my 10 cents.
I hope the fires reach your house, Dvorak. Just racist, man. That's
racist.
Hey.
It's white privilege.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're rednecks down here.
Yeah,
we got white neck privilege. Stop it. I bet you I'll find some 5G in Berkeley. You know it's already happening.
Today.
Yeah.
Berkeley
Okay.
would be the last place to do 5G.
But it's coming. It's coming. And they're going to place it at your house first because they deplatformed you over your negative article.
Yeah, what am I going to do about it?
So the first thing they're going to do is like, hey, Dvorak, look out the window, baby. You won't see mud flats. You'll just see this beam of light coming into you, the soft skin under your eyes. It's going to be all over.
I already got the tinfoil. So
that will help, actually.
I just have its oddball clip.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I'll save this for the end of the show.
Well, then let me just play. I have a backgrounder if we want to listen to it, but we didn't get to kind of an important part of Brexit, even though Brexit isn't really the story. But France and Germany signed the Treaty of Aachen now 2 weeks ago. And the Treaty of Aachen.
Aachen?
Aachen.
Like the city?
Aachen. Aachen.
Yeah, it's a city.
Yeah, it's a city. The Treaty of Aachen. Yes, I know it's a city. The Treaty of Aachen. And this treaty brings the Germans and French even closer together, which is kind of what the whole Brexit thing. We don't want the whole idea of the European Union. It's like we really don't want people pairing off like Germany and France being all buddy-buddy. And it specifically states they will do more to share military resources. I mean, and very little coverage. I mean, it got coverage in Europe. And if you want, I have a 2-minute backgrounder, which is kind of interesting just from a historical.
All during this process, they drilled a nice underground tunnel so they could invade Britain from below.
Quickly. Easily. You want to hear this little backgrounder, 2 minutes? It's a history lesson. Okay, here we go.
France's President Emmanuel Macron is really speaking German, and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel is speaking French. During their mutual visit to the French-German Youth Centre last summer, they were clearly among friends. But it wasn't always this way. Shortly before the end of the Second World War, French soldiers moved into southern Germany. This after Hitler had occupied and humiliated France for years. German soldiers became French prisoners of war, and it looked as if these tried and true enemies would always be at war with each other. But the head of the French military troops was Charles de Gaulle, and 10 years later, when he became president, he had great plans. While at his private country residence, Colombey-les-Deux-Églises, he shook hands with West Germany's post-war chancellor, Konrad Adenauer, and in 1963, the two of them signed the Élysée Treaty of German-French friendship. President de Gaulle wanted to join forces with his German partner to become a world power. And 18 years after the end of the Nazis, the young West German Republic wanted to return to the community of nations and renew friendships with their European democratic allies. The West Germans celebrated. The key to the newfound friendship was young people who were untouched by the hatred that motivated their parents. The German-French Youth Project was founded, and even today it brings together more than 9 million members from both countries through its exchange program. The Chancellor and the President planned a common political agenda in Europe and the world. Good friends Valéry Giscard d'Estaing and Helmut Schmidt found a coalition of the 7 most important industrial nations in the world, the G7. In 1984, President François Mitterrand and Chancellor Helmut Kohl shook hands in Verdun, close to the graves of the First World War. They wanted to show Europe that the worst enemies had become closest of allies. Today, Germany and France continue to meet daily to discuss European policy. They even cooperate militarily on weapons programs and in conflict zones such as in Mali. It's an alliance that 80 years ago nobody would have thought possible.
And even though The French don't donate to the show. I will give you some advice. I would lock up my bike. Just saying. I'm from Holland, I don't know. We got some experience with that. So,
yeah,
but
weren't the Dutch and the Germans always good buddies until that war broke out and they stole all the bikes?
Yeah, they're still looking for the bike back. I know.
Went after Anne Frank.
Oh God, don't get me started.
Anyway, go on.
No, that I had that. I thought maybe we have a pretty eclectic mix of end of show mixes, so we can do one or two more clips, and then we'll get into that. And I
got a couple of clips, but I'm going to just go with the one. And it's going to be, this is Michael Bennett. He's from Colorado, and he is senator, and he he had to go on the Senate floor to bitch and moan about Trump.
I heard this. Yeah,
and he was on there for 20 minutes. It was like a filibuster of some sort.
Is he Republican or Democrat?
Sorry,
is he a Republican? Democrat. Okay.
And I think he was drunk.
I don't know about that. Drunk on power, maybe.
Well, let's play this clip.
This idea that he was going to build a medieval wall across the southern border of Texas, take it from the farmers and ranchers that were there, and have the Mexicans pay for it isn't true. That's why we're here.
And I listen to MSNBC most of the time during the day. Just it's the most entertaining thing you can imagine. And he did some interviews, and they were like all jitty on him, man. Like, oh, it's great. Wow. I mean, you really spoke truth to power, man. It's really great.
Truth to power.
Truth to power, man. It was really fantastic.
It's not true.
Hey, I found the Will Hurd clip that I was missing on the last show.
Oh, okay.
About the smart wall. And, well, let's listen to this.
When we talk about the physical barriers, like I have, as you said, I have 800 miles of border, and I've always said building a wall from sea to shining sea doesn't make sense, but in certain places, it does make sense, where there's urban to urban contact. We need technology. We need to be looking at all 2,000 miles of border at the same time. The only way you can do that is technology. We need additional manpower. And so there's already a bill that most Democrats have voted on. It's called the Secure Fence Act, and it was amended 2 years later. In that amended bill, all the leadership, the Democratic leadership right now, have already voted on it. There's been much publicized about how Senator Obama at the time and Senator Clinton at the time had voted for this. This should be the framework, and there's much physical barriers that weren't completed in that. These Dems already voted on that. That should be the framework from which we are looking. Have the technology, make sure we double down on our ports of entry, as we should know everything that goes back and forth across our border. The head of Department of Homeland Security should be able to say, I want to know what's going at mile marker 36, and this should be able to pop up. I'm not describing some futuristic Star Trek episode. I'm describing that this is technology that exists today that we should be using along the border. We're not right now, but there's programs that are in existence that to do that, but they can't move forward because we're in the middle of a shutdown. Look, I spent almost a decade as an undercover officer in the CIA. I was the guy in the back alleys collecting intelligence on threats to our homeland.
Wow, that's not how most spooks I know talk. Hey, man, I was that guy in the dark alley, like protecting you from the terrorists. Sounds a little too much to me.
Like bull crap.
In the CIA. I was the guy in the back alleys collecting intelligence on threats to our homeland. I did this in dangerous places like Pakistan and Afghanistan. I was in India chasing bad guys, terrorists, Al-Qaeda, you name it, stopping nuclear weapons proliferators. This is what I did. And when you look, we got to remember the drug trafficking organizations and kingpin human smugglers that are operating in Mexico, they don't have to worry about government shutdowns. They're making $67 billion a year in the United States. And guess what? The U.S. intelligence budget is only $61 billion. So we have to have and look at every mile of border and make sure we're using the right tools for that part of the border, because every mile is different. That's something I've seen, having the largest amount of border of anyone in Congress.
Yeah, I think that I think Hurd knows what's coming down the pike, and I think it'll be some version of a combo. One of our producers, who wanted to remain anonymous, has actually worked with these fiber optic listening cables. He says they're really incredibly good. You can pinpoint exactly, it's vibrations. It picks up all kinds of stuff. He says it's very, very good. The problem is it doesn't stop anybody, it just alerts you to something that's happening. It's somehow, and Trump is kind of simplistic in that way. He's like, no, if you run and you hit the wall, it stops you. But I think Hurd's basic idea is probably what's coming down. Because you're hearing more and more like, well, wait a minute, the Democrats actually voted for this stuff,
No, this does all in play. I don't know why they don't just exploit it.
Orange Man bad. It is being exploited to make Orange Man look better.
Yeah. Orange Man bad. All right.
Yes. All right, everybody. I think we've earned our stripes for today. I want to thank Danny Luce, Tom Starkweather, and Alex, who helped them out. Gallup, Sir Chris Wilson, of course, for the end-of-show mixes. A fantastic lineup today. And I'll play the love-hate Trumps on the next... too many clips on the next show. And Thursday, Super Bowl predictions. We'll do that up from a geopolitical standpoint. And for now, coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State, FEMA Region number 6 on the governmental maps, in the 5x9 Cludio in the common law condo. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, plain and simple, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Thursday with another edition of the best podcast in the universe. Remember us at Dvorak.org/NA. Until then, adios, mofos, and such.
Once upon a time, you did a crime, told a lie to the FBI. Didn't you? Mule a trolley once a brawl. You're about to fall, you thought they were all kidding you. You used to laugh about everybody who had opted out. Now you don't talk so loud as your life mushroom clouds. We're seeing and dreaming their next news reel. Well, how does it feel? Yeah, how does it feel to be dragged from your home and to the black van you're from, like a Roger Stone?
The President has agreed to our request to open the government and then debate border security.
And one of my dogs is still traumatized, will not come out from under the bed and won't stop shaking.
No one should ever underestimate the speaker, as Donald Trump has learned.
She said that she was going to dog walk me. And, viewers can look up on Urban Dictionary what dog walking someone means. But to put it simply, it's to severely beat somebody up.
We have a doggy park at the hotel.
Yes.
And I'm going to take you for a little walk.
Thank you.
Have a good time. I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, good.
The president is clearly concerned about how this development is being viewed politically, especially because...
Can't do that, then we'll do, obviously, we're going to do the emergency, because that's what it is.
This is like giving you a bowl of doggy do, put a cherry on top and call it a chocolate sundae. This is nothing.
And one of my dogs is still traumatized, will not come out from under the bed and won't stop shaking.
You take a dog, you go outside, it's freezing, and you walk around for a while, and it's not that easy. Okay, be careful.
Down.
Oh, how are you?
Oh my goodness!
I'm here to walk your dog.
Gosh!
Can't have no deal. If you don't want to have no deal, you have to ensure that you have a deal. Now, maybe Hitler was a baby.
If you don't want to have no...
Now that would mean staying in the European Union, failing to respect affect the result of the referendum, and that is can't have no deal.
Maybe presumably want to do with baby Hitler was take.
There never is going.
Baby Hitler was a baby.
There never was going to be a deal. There never is.
For Hitler, and the truth is that no pro-life person on earth would kill baby Hitler.
Really, really.
Designed to dilute times above natural background radiation since 1932.
Was going to be a. There never is going to be a deal. Was going to be a. There never is.
A person on earth would kill baby Hitler. Right, because baby Hitler wasn't Hitler.
Radiation. You don't want to have no deal. You have to ensure that you have. Now, with me, if you don't want to have no, can't have.
There never is going to be a deal. There never is going. Then.
Thank you.
Well, I'm worried because I put those devices in my house.
Baby Hitler was a baby. Adult Hitler.
If you don't want to have no.
There never is going to deal. We can't have no deal.
Well, you presumably want.
There is going to be a deal.
Designed because 5G is designed to deliver.
Not what I want to do with baby Hitler was take baby Hitler. Adult Hitler was Hitler.
In the European Union, can't have no. If you don't want to reassure the House, businesses and background radiators,
we can't have no deal.
We use our medical record to look into this.
Hitler was a baby. Baby Hitler was a baby.
I think that this is immediate.
He's a baby.
No deal stands alone.
Hitler was a baby.
Because I put those devices in my house.
Who is making that he.
Right, what you presumably want to do with baby Hitler was take
1932.
Earth with
In the morning.
Made was, hey, kill Skype. Want to upgrade your Skype? Want to upgrade your Skype?
The dry scumbag.
This is a bunch of scumbags.
In the morning.
Oh, you fool. Gonna lose your little sauce.
The best podcast in the universe.
Mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
There's a war on alternative media.